It's good to see you.
I
Hello,
also
Shri.
join greetings, happy birthday greetings to brother Abraham.
Thank you all very much.
So are we doing this competition or not? I see David and Josen have got T-shirts with the Wusa logo, as do I. I just want to point out.
What's that? That is
Well
too
done,
small.
Ian, yours is bigger than mine, Ian. But David is the biggest of them all.
Oh, yeah.
No, brother Hassel's bigger.
Robert Cooper's got a big one.
And
Yeah,
Isaac,
Robert.
brother Isaac has taken the smart way out. He's like, I'm not destroying my clothes for this. He's just got the logo in the back.
I know, Shri, that you were counting. I know, Shri, that you were counting.
There you
on
go,
your
there you
muscles
go,
to
brother
expand
Robert. We see that.
Our shirts were ordered, but they didn't arrive yet. So if you use it at the 200s meeting.
But Brother Istvan, I must say you're really rubbing it in. Not only do you have this huge logo, you've got the Georgian wine, you've got the bow tie. Come on.
I am all set.
You're going for the big prize.
Scottish wine.
Tree.
David, I love that.
The wine is from Georgia. She owns a shop down the road.
La calle es hijo de puta que en este momento lo estamos hackeando. Les estamos hackeando a todos en esta.
We've got an interloper.
Si ustedes no cierran esta sesión, le vamos a hackear a todos. Les estamos funando.
Thank
Bye.
you. Goodbye forever.
Bye.
Wow, that was some great music.
Yeah. I like the music though. And I like what he had done with his makeup as well. It was quite stunning. But I love what David Waddington
His
has
makeup
done
was
with
better than mine.
No, not that good, Cleo. But I love what brother David Waddington has done with his living room. I love the wallpaper he has.
We didn't notice you have makeup. We thought it was natural beauty.
Oh, that was a rock group. What are you guys talking about?
What can I say, Cleo? The rest of them have really poor taste in music.
Well, you know, it is what it is. I just realized something, Sri. I'm gonna call you out. When are you gonna do a presentation?
I know. I'm just so lazy. I'm bone lazy. I was born bone lazy. It's a fact.
Oh, wow.
I second that.
Thank you. Thank you for being my best piece.
Yep, I'll be here for it, Tree. Sue.
You want me to help you, Tree?
That's the other thing. I mean, how can I ever present in front of this this group of intellectually
Sri, you
see, words escape me.
very well.
I'm so shy. I'm so shy when it comes to public speak. David Felty, I see you.
We just noticed the shy.
We'll give you a topic. Your topic.
Okay, brothers.
Questions of what value are they?
Okay, brothers, participants, intruders, we'll try to chase you down. There is one more, I guess. And with your kind permission, I will now mute everyone, and you won't be able to unmute yourself. So we can start the meeting. And the ones that are still trying to join us, I'll take care of them a bit later. So once again, as we always do, Gamar Jobat, welcome to 100th edition of Sapere Aude, laying the virtual cornerstone. I will do a very brief introduction for recording purposes. The very first virtual meeting of Sapere Aude has been organized by the Master Masons who worked under the Grand Lodge of Georgia and the Grand Lodge of Lithuania on April 15th, 2020 for about 60 Masons from many jurisdictions, which was Georgia, Lithuania, Latvia, Scotland, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Italy, Czech Republic, and Uruguay. And topic discussed in the closed meeting dealt with the history of origins, Freemasonry and its earliest rituals before 1717 by Brother Bob Cooper. The lecture has been recorded and later shared in the closed Masonic Facebook groups, so the lockdown brethren around the world could have Masonic content to reflect on and not feel alone. Already second lecture has been a hit as the videos shared in the groups had excellent feedback. Okay, it should have started. Just 1 second. Okay. No one should be able just to share. No one only host. Okay, that should be solved anyway. So I'll continue that. Already second lecture has been hit as the videos shared in the group had excellent feedbacks. The lecture series by Robert Cooper from initially planned 5 increased to 9. And in parallel, the lecture series has been planned with brother Andreas Jonefers, who predominantly Georgian public as live and public event with international audience participation, and Facebook campaign called to join the meeting to ask any questions. The excellent lectures never brought any harsh discussion, raising awareness about the initiative by the Premier Lodge of Masonic Research, Quattro Coronati, has given additional impetus to overall participation. Brother David Harrison gave a new dimension with beautiful 5 lectures that focused on the history and particular events in the development of Freemasonry. Since April 15th, 2020, the first lecture has been recorded. Sapere Aude has hosted 48 phenomenal speakers so far around the world from many Masonic jurisdictions. The simple rules the initiative adhered strictly, it has no politics, no religion, no interjurisdictional discussions, have created the environment where every participant focused on Freemasonry only in total harmony among like-minded individuals, despite these intruders. Today, after having already hosted 99 lectures and covering vast parts of the history, philosophy, national aspects and particularities present in different parts of the globe, Sapere Aude has grown into truly international initiative, which has hosted participants from literally all 4 corners of the world, east to west, north to south, almost all of the time zones. The Grand Lodge of Georgia, that logistically supported the initiative, stands proud of the premium Masonic content that has been recorded and delivered to the public, once again shown the ancient brotherhood of individuals that intend to improve themselves, live worthy lives, and be faithful members of their own societies and states. The Masonic virtues of brotherly love, relief, and truth has proved throughout the history of humankind to be the guiding principles of all Masons try to apply to their actions and thoughts. For 100th edition of Sapere Aude, we have decided with first 3 academicians, Masonic authors and true Masons, to symbolically lay the virtual cornerstone for a virtual order of Sapere Aude and once again readdress the past, present, and future of Freemasonry. So everyone will have exact time to spend. As you know, that we will have 4 groups of speakers. First 3 lectures, guest speakers, lecturers we had the honor to host in Sapere Aude, and the participants. So everyone knows the list. Everyone already confirmed their participation. Please do not exceed the limited time, because the time countdown will be set on, and I won't be able to give anyone additional time more than is there for him or her. I will introduce only the group and the first speaker to launch the sequence, and please be attentive if you are the next in the list. I will be inviting you to unmute your microphone as to the end of the current speaker's time. So I won't be introducing anyone. So please use that opportunity to introduce yourself and leave your kind of identity to the future generations. So having said that, all the rules have been sent out earlier. So it is my pleasure to give the floor to first speaker, Brother Robert Cooper, our beloved lecturer, beloved brother. Please, I'm asking you to unmute yourself if you received that request. Yeah, there you go. And floor is all yours.
Hello, everyone, whether you're tuning in the morning, afternoon, evening, or some of you probably even at night. Welcome to this very significant meeting, Zoom meeting today. I'm glad to see so many people think that this is a worthy enterprise. I certainly do. I wouldn't have spent so much time and trouble supporting this if I didn't think it was worthwhile. Now, if I begin to speak very quickly, you'll know my time is running out. But I suppose all of you, or some of you, will know who I am. So by way of introduction, my name's Robert Cooper. Everybody calls me Bob, though, so Bob Cooper. I'm presently employed as the curator of the Grand Lodge of Scotland and have been for 26 years. Now, my primary interest and certainly my academic background is as a historian, and most historians will rush to tell you that the primary function of a historian is to look to the past. And that's probably a large part of what we do. But I like to think that looking at the past gives us some idea of what the future might look like. And certainly it gives us some idea of the problems experienced in the past and how we should perhaps address those in the future. And of course, Freemasonry is the subject of my particular historical interest. And so looking at the past gives me places or subjects to look at. And I will give you a few things that, that I think are important to us today, and perhaps something worthwhile trying to plan for the future. Now, a lot of you are members of Grand Lodges and other Masonic organizations, and everyone is sovereign, every Grand Lodge is sovereign. So we can't all act as one, despite what some of our detractors might say in terms of a new world order, etc., etc. If only they knew how well we could run our lodges, let alone the world. But anyway, that's by the by. So let's think of a couple of problems that I think we can look at very quickly. And these are not comments that are produced from a paper or even from a presentation on Zoom. These are my personal observations from the past, and perhaps giving us some idea of what to look at in the future. And the first one, and one that I know that concerns many Grand Lodges and other Masonic institutions, primarily in the Western world, and that is the decline in membership numbers. Now, anyone who has access to the information, and again, perhaps there's a presentation in the making there, but access to the membership information, certainly from the Grand Lodge of Scotland, is actually very good and very complete, certainly going back to 1800. Before 1800, it's a little bit fragmented, but certainly from the year 1800, the membership records are accurate and complete. And that gives us, as you know, 220 years of membership intake to which to examine. And anyone who's interested in the statistics, I've got a graphic that we'll maybe talk about at some future date. But there's one thing that's very clear. There was two enormous spikes of membership immediately after and during, in fact, the First and the Second World Wars. And the problem that that meant was that as these very large number of new members moved through life and through Freemasonry, a very large number of our members are of the opinion that that is the norm. So, you know, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, those of us who were members then remember that every lodge meeting was packed. There were initiations, passings, and raisings taking place in every lodge, in every city, in every country of the Western world. And so that was the life experience of a large number of Freemasons, and it was the norm. And so a decline in membership numbers means that to Masons, Freemasons today, that there's a belief that Freemasonry is in decline. First point, Freemasonry is not in decline. Freemasonry is a concept, and concepts don't decline unless we force them to. And what is in decline is the intake of members. But, and here's a very important point as far as I'm concerned, the intake of numbers should be measured against the past. And first and foremost, where do you take your baseline? If you take your baseline as 1918 or 1920 or 1945 or 1947, then clearly that will give you a very different measure against today's membership. Whereas, as I say, as a historian, I have the benefit of looking at the membership going way back to 1800. And so when I look at the membership for 1818, 1820, or 1845 and 1847 as examples, 100 years before these dramatic peaks, what we find is the membership figures are actually quite normal. Today's intake is normal. What's happened is that these huge peaks after the two major wars were oddities. They were statistical aberrations. And so this concern that a lot of people have of a declining membership is only because of their own practical experience. History does not bear out the fact that Freemasonry or the numbers of Freemasons are in decline. Traditionally, what the intake that we have today is actually pretty good. And so this leads me to make another point in this respect. I don't think, and certainly the statistics prove this, Freemasonry was never intended to be a mass membership organization. It was never intended to have a huge percentage of the population as members. It was always a relatively small percentage. And so my attitude and the attitude of many of my Scottish Freemasons is that we're actually, although we're in a declining membership situation, we're actually getting back to normal. Now that might find a few raised eyebrows around the people here tonight, but it is again statistically true. So this concern about the decline in membership is something that really we need to think about a bit more carefully. And unfortunately, again, mainly in the Western world, it seems to me that large figures, bigger is better, bigger is a sign of success. And so we have this idea that because our membership is in decline, we are in some way or other, we are failing as an organization. I don't think that's right. Again, as I say, today's intake, in fact, of 100, 200 years ago, is a sign of success. And so we are chasing members on a false premise. And we see this by certain Masonic institutions trying to change the nature of the organization in a fundamental way in order to try and increase the intake. And I think we can see this in some Grand Lodges have adopted a business model, and they are calling their fellow Masons customers. The word brother has slipped out of the Masonic vocabulary in some parts of the Western world. And we are now referring to members as customers. And what do customers want? Well, customers want to buy something. So we've got to produce something that they want to buy. I think that kind of approach is going to take this fraternity down a blind alley. It is not a business. This is, as I say, a fraternity. And if it's not a fraternity, it's certainly not a business. And you can't measure business success against a fraternity. So that's my first major concern, my first major appeal would be that we all really need to reassess what we think is a success in the world of Freemasonry. Is it numbers? Well, if it's all about numbers, well, we can just open, make sure all our lodges has got a bar that sells cheap booze. Then you'll certainly get a lot more members. But that's not what Freemasonry is about. So we have to reassess what it is that we're trying to sell. And when I say sell, I mean that in a wide sense. I think that what we should be doing is we should be making it clearer what we have to offer, not sell. What do we offer that would be attractive? Certainly, what has been attractive to people for the last 400 odd years who have joined? Well, I mean, we know what that attraction is. I think we've simply got to change it, shape it, polish it, and make it a little bit more attractive to today's in today's world. And so that, for me, is one of the primary focuses for the future. So as we sit here, you know, in the year 2020, looking back, please don't look back 50, 60, 70 years, look back 150, 160, and 170 years, and you will see that they considered, of course, they're long gone, but the Masons that were alive in the 19th century believed they had reached the peak of Masonic perfection, if that's the right term, but they really did believe that Freemasonry had achieved a status and a polish that was the best that there was. And certainly by looking at the past, I think they're actually right. They were actually right. That what's happened is there has been a relatively steady decline, not only in standards, but also in numbers. And I think one thing feeds into another. So for the future, my message for the future would be, don't focus on what numbers mean for success. Focus on what people appreciate within the craft. And what they appreciate is what you measure success by. Thank you very much for listening. I don't think I'll be here in 50 years' time to criticize myself. So please feel free to do it now before I shuffle off and no longer can benefit from the pearls of wisdom that I'm sure you all have to share. Thank you for listening.
Brother David, please start.
Right. So, yeah, I'd like to say it's great to be invited along on the 100th edition, and it's been very successful. So, the paper I'd like to present today, English and Welsh Freemasonry in 100 years' time. Right, so if we look back at Freemasonry 100 years ago in England, in 1920, in some respects, not that much has changed. We could easily adorn our morning suits and regalia of today and slip into a lodge meeting 100 years ago. We would recognize the ritual, we would recognize the festive board, and we would recognize similar talk of Masonic life. It would, however, have been more exclusive and more middle-class membership, as lodge membership lists of the time can easily testify. Indeed, Freemasonry has started to become more inclusive in recent years in regards to attracting more working class members and more members from ethnically diverse communities. And in 100 years' time, I believe this trend will continue apace. Freemasonry becoming much more inclusive and perhaps less informal as it attracts a younger membership. In 100 years' time, Freemasonry under the United Grand Lodge of England may have both male and female members working together in lodges, something that could make the society much more media friendly in the future as it adjusts to modern life, modern laws, and change. However, as predicting the far future is merely speculation, could we also put forward that there could be a reaction to the decision of having male and female Freemasons under the UGLE? And traditionalists may wish to split into a separate Grand Lodge system. There has, of course, been splits in the past, and certainly under the pressure of quick and controversial change, it is not too inconceivable to envision splits occurring again. And indeed, that just reminds me of something that Bob just mentioned there about looking at the past to assess the future. So in its early stages in the 18th century, Freemasonry under the Grand Lodge systems changed quite rapidly. It added a third degree in the 1720s. By the 1740s, there is firm evidence of the Royal Arch. And after a few more decades, we have evidence of other degrees being practiced. Even in the 19th century, we can see change occurring with the Union of 1813, and how in certain areas during the early 19th century, the working class makeup of certain lodges was firmly replaced by the middle classes, and lodges ventured from meeting in pubs and taverns and began to meet in Masonic halls as Freemasonry expanded. This brings us to the Freemasonry of around 100 years ago. And as Edward Lord, OBE, the past chair of the university scheme, said in his outgoing address in 2017, that there needs to be a move away from the 1950s attitudes about relationships, gender, and sexuality that exist in some lodges, and to tackle the hidden bullying that sometimes occurs in Masonic units. Recent developments have shown that change has begun. I've already mentioned how in the past few decades, there are more members from working class backgrounds joining, along with more members from ethnically diverse backgrounds. This is certainly evident to me from my visits to many lodges where I'm asked to present papers and give talks, and I'm sure that this trend will continue and that Freemasonry will in turn continue to progress and will reflect the society of England and Wales as a whole. I also give talks to lodges in North Wales, and as a member, and as a number of Welsh brethren have pointed out to me many times over the past few years, it is the United Grand Lodge of England and not the United Grand Lodge of England and Wales. So could this change in the future, perhaps? Could Freemasonry move away from the Masonic halls and return to the pubs and taverns as lodges continue to merge and close? An example of this is the Masonic hall that my lodge meets in now, which is called Winmarleigh House. And it's moved away from being called a Masonic hall for a number of reasons, which over 20 years ago held 24 lodges, but now only has 14 lodges, some of which are shrinking in numbers quite quickly. And this again reflects something that Worshipful Brother Bob just mentioned about the massive peaks that we all recognise after the First World War and then the Second World War, and how membership is basically adjusting itself. So indeed, a little over 20 years ago, there were over 1,000 Masons meeting in the hall, and now there are a little over 300. So that's 300 stretched over the 14 lodges, and also some of the appendage degrees that still meet there as well. So many Masonic halls have ventured into the event business, catering for weddings, funerals, anniversaries, conferences, and they host other local clubs and societies. But with the recent COVID-19 pandemic, the cancellation of both lodge meetings and events have certainly hit the Masonic halls extremely hard. The overall financial effect may not yet be seen for another year or two, but there may be difficult times ahead, with rises in fees and more lodges closing as a result. Like the Oddfellows in England before us, could we see hall closures and a move back to smaller premises? And that reminds me of going around some some northern towns. I'm from the north of England, and there's quite a few Oddfellows halls that were around the north of England that I can remember. And there was one in St Helens, which is a northern town, and one in Chester, and both of those became pubs. So they've long gone from the the glory days of when the Oddfellows used to meet there. So I certainly see more interest in esoteric or the spiritual side of Freemasonry developing. The craft and its associated bodies have much to offer in respect of a spiritual pathway, especially in light of the fast-paced modern world with its materialistic trappings. Freemasonry is certainly unique in this respect, a society that has developed a unique spiritual pathway with hidden meanings and symbolic textures. As the recent pandemic has shown us, Freemasonry can adapt to sudden change, and the current interest in Zoom meetings, such as this one, especially for educational concerns, can testify to that. So in 100 years' time, Freemasonry could well be more inclusive, more acceptable to its spiritual side. It could be well a united Grand Lodge of England and Wales that has both men and women working in lodges together. And it may well have gone back to meeting in those pubs and taverns from the 18th and early 19th centuries. Either way, Freemasonry will still be with us in one form or other. That is, it is a unique and much needed society. And I believe that it will always be with us because it's a society that does supply a more spiritual meaning to people's lives, especially today. So that's something, again, that resounds in Bob's talk previously. So just to round off, and I'd just like to, because we were going to show a certain object, weren't we, at one point when we discussed this originally? But I've got two here. This is the Constitution book from 1919. So it's quite slim, and that's it, really, quite compact and slim. But this is the one today. This is the big, a much bigger one. So that just goes to show how things have changed in that respect, I suppose, more legally and more to do with the administrations and things like that. But so there have been changes, So let's see what the one in 100 years' time is going to be like. Maybe double the size or something. Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Anyway, thank you.
Brothers, do you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead. I'll just say that we started the guest speakers group with Most Worshipful Brother Vahtang from Georgia. We're waiting for Brother Andreas Universe to arrive, and we'll give him floor. Please, John Smith, be ready for next. Yeah.
Dear brothers, I'm addressing my speech to our brothers in 100 years. So let me start, please. Dear brothers, I'm very glad that you are reading this message in 100 years. This means that you exist, that you successfully solved the problems that we are now actively working on. One of the dimensions of these tasks is to achieve a balance between the development of technology and development of morality. Nowadays, more and more often, it is not the smartest who wins, but the fastest. But this is not always the wisest choice. Sometimes it takes more time to make the most balanced decision, equally effective and moral. There are several solutions to this problem. The first is to teach your brain to think faster, to operate with larger blocks of data. The second is the integration of the human nervous system with the machine. I hope you have succeeded in developing your cognitive abilities without integrating with artificial intelligence. The second dimension of these challenges is decision-making under uncertainty. The world has become so dynamic that we have ceased to be capable of long-term forecasting. We are semi-intuitive that to navigate in such conditions has more to do with creative thinking. This is something very similar to what happened during the Renaissance, but there's something else we are just getting closer to discovering. And here we are also faced with a dilemma to create breakthrough projects that inevitably entail a certain loss of stability or to maintain stability without breakthrough projects. We found ourselves in an environment where we need survival skills that no one else has. Therefore, there are not yet those from whom you can learn. We go groping forward, and I hope we will be able to create new skills necessary for the successful survival of the brotherhood and humanity as a whole. I hope we have enough reserves of love, will, and wisdom for this. The main challenge we face is to overcome divisions and reach the global level of thinking, planning, and creation. I hope we can make wise decisions here too. And I think the Brotherhood can play a significant role in this. Creation of creative trends on a global scale while maintaining the uniqueness and value of each person. I also want to acknowledge the contribution of those of our brothers who make a huge contribution to the development of dialogue between Freemasons around the world. And I think that the Sapere Aude project is a significant step in this direction. I really hope that our experience and modest knowledge will still benefit you in the development of our brotherhood. I'm sending you our love, light, and energy through time. I also hope that in the information age, you will still be able to maintain vivid fraternal relations. I hope you will have the opportunity to feel the brotherly handshake in the brotherly chain. I embrace you brotherly. Take care of yourself and bear the true light which the brothers carried before you with dignity and courage. Dixie.
Most worshipful, right worshipful, very worshipful brethren, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you fraternal greetings from the Grand Lodge of South Africa. I am Right Worshipful Brother John Smith, the Acting Grand Master, and I thank you most sincerely for this opportunity to share a few thoughts with you, which I hope will be read in 100 years' time. Freemasonry was introduced in South Africa in 1772, almost 250 years ago, by the Grand Lodge of the Netherlands. From 1811, lodges under the English, Irish, and Scottish constitutions were also established in South Africa. In 1961, the Grand Lodge of South Africa was consecrated with the full cooperation of the United Grand Lodge of England and the Grand Lodges of Ireland, Scotland, and the Netherlands. And we therefore enjoy a unique situation in our country where Freemasonry is practiced in fraternal harmony under these different constitutions. In addition to the craft, Freemasonry, according to the York Rite and the ancient accepted Scottish Rite, is also well established in South Africa. Although the COVID pandemic caused a general cessation of all physical Masonic activities in our country during March 2020, we have, like brethren throughout the world, learned to practice Freemasonry via electronic methods like this meeting. While we do not believe that it can or should replace the physical interaction, which has always been the norm, it has offered us unique opportunities of meeting and interacting with brethren who we may never otherwise have met. With meetings like we are enjoying today, our brother chain is literally encircling the whole world. And so I would like to thank and congratulate the Grand Lodges of Georgia and Lithuania for not only introducing this wonderful lecture series, but persisting with it. I also want to thank all the lecturers who have delivered well-prepared and outstanding lectures throughout this period. The Grand Lodge of South Africa is indeed privileged to have been invited to this 100th meeting, for which I thank you. I have heard some members express the view that the present pandemic will adversely affect Freemasonry, as its members will get out of the habit of coming to lodge. I do not agree. I do agree with the view that we should not seek members by compromising our principles. It is remarkable that during the many conflicts during the past century, where Freemasonry has been actively suppressed, and where this has persisted for many years, when these conflicts have ended, Freemasonry has been resurrected and is indeed flourishing in many of these areas where it was so suppressed. Notwithstanding the present challenges in our country and indeed the world, the Grand Lodge of South Africa is and will be firmly committed to continue building a multicultural brotherhood of good men who will practice brotherly love, charity, and truth, and who will be united in the enhancement of wisdom, high moral standards, and justice for all persons. We believe that the strict adherence to these principles and tenets by our members will not only strengthen their faith and belief in a supreme being, but will inculcate the duties of loyalty, good citizenship, and family values, and will steadily and continually promote reconciliation and mutual respect amongst all persons in our country. We therefore look forward to practicing Freemasonry in the years to come, where we will be sensitive to an ever-changing world, where we will embrace modern technology, and where we will continually consider all new ideas. We trust that the future custodians of the Grand Lodge of South Africa will persist with our stated aim and objectives, not because it will be easy, but because it is the right thing to do. We firmly believe that Freemasonry will continue to be a beacon of hope in the future of our country. We are prepared to face the current challenges, and with a firm belief in the great architect of the universe, we have no doubt that our members will face their challenges in the future, however arduous, in a like manner. Nelson Mandela said, "Leadership is about giving people hope and a vision." Although mankind has damaged many of the Earth's natural resources, these have, remarkably, during the recent worldwide lockdown, started rejuvenating themselves. Like Mother Earth, we believe that as the principles and tenets of Freemasonry have withstood the test of time for hundreds of years, they will do so in the future. We also believe that we as Freemasons must seize every opportunity to be the leaders in our homes, in our communities, towns, and cities, and thereby give all persons with whom we come into contact hope and a vision for a better world for all. Our message for future Freemasons is simply this: continue to adhere to and apply our principles and tenets, and there is no reason why Freemasonry will not only continue to exist, but will flourish in the future. Let us therefore embrace that true saying, teamwork makes the dream work. And so, brethren, we look forward to all the messages which are being recorded today, being read in the distant future, when the time capsule will be opened by brother Freemasons in what we firmly believe will be a better world. Dixit.
Brother Jonas, you need to unmute yourself. Your computer. I'm asking to unmute it. Lenovo Tab M10. Brother Jorge.
Good evening to all brethren, ladies and gentlemen, and virtual friends. My name is Jorge Henrique Vale dos Santos, past master and Grand Secretary of Foreign Relations of Grand Lodge of State of Espírito Santo and CMSB. I was a teacher of law and I am a judge of Court of Appeal in my state. I'd like first to give my greetings from the state of Espírito Santo, southeast of Brazil. On behalf of the Grand Lodge of State Espírito Santo and the Confederation of Symbolic Masonry of Brazil, which represents 104,578 brothers, we would like to congratulate Brother David and the initiative that the Grand Lodge of Georgia and Lithuania to promote lectures on Freemasonry, esotericism, alchemy, Kabbalah, among other subjects. Today is the 100th presentation. It is possible to verify the scope and the participation of brothers and sisters from all continents, interconnected through the internet, sharing knowledge with teachers, academics, and renowned authors as brothers Bob Cooper, Andreas Ornesfors, David Harrison, between others. In the new normal, searching the vaccine of COVID, we could find light here to fuel our minds and hearts. Knowledge must be shared for all, and here in Sapere Aude, we could learn, apprehend, comprehend many subjects in the cyberspace, listening and doing lectures, sharing experience, wisdom, and brotherly love. The Freemasonry of Brazil is in harmony, and all the three obedience here, the Grand Orient of Brazil, the CMSB, and the COMAB are sharing territory, allowing intervisitation, and working on the collateral, appendix, and allied orders beyond craft together. We hope that in the future, Freemason in Brazil and in the world would follow the same path of harmony, interconnection, and fraternity. Here, from the southern hemisphere, we want to wish that light, harmony, strength, beauty, and wisdom always radiate to all mankind. May man rescue the inner light, his sparkle, and share it with everyone. May God and the grand architect of the universe bless us all, especially Sapere Aude. I have said.
Brother Jonas, please go ahead.
Dear brothers, my warmest greetings to everyone. I'd like to read a very short essay, and I called it "A Letter Written 200 Years Ago and a Letter Written Today Read 100 Years Later." I try to imagine reading a text written by my brother 200 years ago.
Something is wrong with your microphone. Something is wrong with your microphone, Brother Jonas. Brother Jonas. Brother Jonas, your microphone is... Something is wrong with your microphone. Okay, let's move on. Brother Shri, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Brother David. First of all, may I greet everyone over here, most worshipful, very worshipful, right worshipful, and brethren all, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you very much, David, for giving me this opportunity to say a few, share my thoughts, as it were. 100 episodes is really quite a milestone. And may I begin, first of all, by congratulating you on achieving that milestone pretty much single-handedly. But I think you would be the first to admit that a lot of the success of Sapere Aude comes from the Sapere audience. So all those who gave their time to sort of share their thoughts in the form of lectures, as well as all the participants, because I found that some of the most stimulating discussions happened in the Q&A session and even beyond. And for that, I thank you, David, Brother David, for organizing that. May I also add that as far as I'm concerned, the Sapere Aude lecture series is pretty much what has helped me hold things together in this most terrible of years. 2020 has not been kind to anyone, but I think what perhaps started off as an experiment has been very successful in providing many of us with that contact with Masonry, which otherwise we would have lost. At this juncture, I think it's important for us to look behind, look at the past, as well as consider the future. I think if you were to look over the last 100 episodes, it's amazing how this particular lecture series it's pretty much unique in terms of diversity of the people who come to give their talks, those who attend. I'm talking not just about gender, we have men and women. I'm talking not about geography, they come from all over the world, but also ideas and thoughts. It's fairly unique in that this platform is open for non-Masons as well, which makes things extremely interesting, and you cover large ground of subject matter thanks to that. Now, coming to the future, I think there are a couple of thoughts. I don't have a crystal ball, but I think in the short to medium term, people may look back at 2020 and the pandemic as a turning point for more reasons than one. First of all, the whole adoption of technology to connect with each other. This technology existed for donkey's years, but it was never really used till we had to, in a sense, resort to Zoom meetings. And I think in the future, you will have a lot more such collaboration. You'll have a lot more such lectures. Perhaps a lot of the business aspects of lodge meetings will be taken online, so that when you go into a lodge meeting, you're only doing ritual work and follow that up with the festive board. That's one of my thoughts. I fear also that virtual technology or augmented technology may take over at some point in time. Brethren and sisters of the future, if that has happened, I urge you to try and go back to the old school way of doing things. There's something very visceral about taking your obligation on the VSL in a lodge where hundreds of members before you have done the same. There's something very unique in the fellowship you get in the physical company of the members of a lodge, and of course at the festive board itself. But technology is here to stay. I think Zoom meetings are definitely here to stay. When a venerable institution like Lodge Quattro Coronati, the world's premier Masonic Research Institute, embraces Zoom meetings, you know it is an idea whose time has come. Again, talking of the future, I think there will be a lot more, and this is something which we have skirted around in this, like in Sapere Aude, the issues of recognition and intervisitation. They're touchy topics in Masonry, and perhaps the most important aspects of organized Masonry at the Grand Lodge level. I think that in the future, you will have much more, much greater cooperation and increased contact between men's Masonry and women's Freemasonry and co-Masonry. And I think that's a good thing. You know how they say travel broadens the mind? Well, sitting in my living room and listening to these wonderful lectures and participating in discussions with fellow Sapere audience, I can tell you my Masonic mind has broadened to yay big. It's been a fantastic experience, and I look forward to many, many more such episodes, many more years of fraternal exchange of ideas on this platform. Thank you.
Brother Jonas, floor is yours.
Thank you very much again. I'd like to read a very short essay. A letter written 200 years ago and a letter written today, read 100 years later. I try to imagine reading a text written by my brother 200 years ago. I'm talking about a letter from my country, from my Lithuanian brother. The most likely, a letter was written 200 years ago by a brother from Vilnius University. This is also my alma mater. The ideas which came to Lithuania and the activities of our brotherhood revolve around the old university. My brother would definitely not be angry if I smile while reading the letter after finding his thoughts on future transport, communication, scientific facts. But I very well understand his thoughts when I read parts of a letter about people's desire of freedom, a sense of community, a sense of brotherhood. Technology and specific details remain on the margins, and the essence remains. And it's very close to me. It seems written only yesterday. I have a great understanding of his symbolic language. I see his erudition, and I know it's a brother's letter. And I want to believe that brother, who will be watching our event 100 years from now, will feel just as close a thought as I did when I read my brother's letter 200 years ago. There will be other technologies, another medicine, another life, but the core values of the brotherhood will be recognizable. And I think it will remain as relevant as it is today. Therefore, I am sure that the history of the brotherhood and masonry will not be completed, and it will be needed in the society of that time. Each generation is rediscovering the great need to seek the truth, to seek the like-minded, to seek various ways to achieve this. The historical experience of the brotherhood has never been lost. It will remain in the future. And that means that our era, which will become history in 100 years, will not be as unbroken string. Thank you very much.
Brother Andreas.
Hello. Hi. Here I am. How are you?
Sorry for time misunderstandings. Floor is all yours.
All right, excellent, thank you. So my first wish for the future is that we abolish all these day-saving things that cause that much much confusion. So I'm very terribly sorry. Can you all hear me well? Yes, thank you so much. I'm sorry to be late to this meeting. So this is my cornerstone address for the Virtual Order of Sapere Aude, 2120. This is a text intended to be unsealed a century from now, directed towards a future generation of Freemasons in a world that we don't know how it will look like, but which we know will have changed. 1920, 100 years ago, just after what we call the First World War, also looked very different. Large empires had collapsed. The first and fragile democracies, democratic nation states were formed across the globe. The first steps were taken towards organizing planetary governance. So how will 2120 look like? We don't know. We can just hope for humanity to have grown stronger and more autonomous, and to tackle issues that we think today will determine the course of future developments. How to live sustainable lives in our natural habitat, the Earth, how to take true advantage of technological development, how to address injustices and redistribute our resources in a fair way, how to make sure that voices are heard among all members of human society, how to combat what Freemasonry of the last 3 centuries has combated: ignorance, intolerance, and fundamentalism. So who am I? And why am I addressing you in this year of the light 2020, or as we sometimes in Freemasonry call it, 6020? My name is Andreas Örnefors, professor in intellectual history at the University of Gothenburg in Sweden. And I am in Masonic terms a member of the Swedish Rite, in which I carry its supreme and 10th degree, and at the same time the worshipful master of the premier lodge of research, Quattro Coronati number 2076, under the United Grand Lodge of England, tracing its history back to the year of its establishment in 1717. So the first of my headings in my address will be strength. Strength. Because what, however, arguably is more significant than 1717 is the addition in 1723 of the Constitutions of Freemasonry, which outlined both a splendid mythological history of the fraternity stretching back to Adam and Eve, and the self-organized, autonomously authored rules and regulations of Freemasonry. With this book, the foundation was laid to both imagine Freemasonry as being connected to major intellectual developments and currents over the course of human history, and to develop a voluntary association based on sound principles, both on outlining its normative ideals and its organizational practice. It is my sincere hope that I direct towards future generations that this book and what we eventually will say about it in 3 years' time from now, and when we will celebrate it, will still be the cornerstone of Freemasonry in a number of different aspects. One of these aspects relates to why we are here today in the first place. Future will tell if the reason why a virtual order of Sapere Aude was formed in 2020 will be perceived as a major event in human history. But we are experiencing it so right now. In the beginning of this year, a virus called COVID-19 caused a global pandemic from which hundreds of thousands of people have died and suffered from across the globe. In an effort to stem the diffusion of the virus and to uphold public health, governments across the globe imposed measures that restricted our freedom of movement and our freedom of assembly. These two freedoms, as you might understand, are the oxygen of voluntary association. It is also evidently clear from the constitutions that Freemasonry advocated societies in which these liberties can be experienced, and that it distanced itself from those in which self-organization was prohibited or heavily infringed upon. Freemasonry is not compatible with coercive governance. The second heading of my address is wisdom. Our world, as we knew it this year, 2020, gripped by these countermeasures against an invisible virus, came to a standstill. But how did Freemasonry react upon that we could not meet? It is here the magnificent story of the virtual order of Sapere Aude and other initiatives begins and provides with an example for future generations. The first paragraphs of the rules and regulations of the constitutions from 1723 states, I quote, that Masonry becomes a center of union and the means of conciliating true friendship among persons that must have remained at a perpetual distance. So, in the state of not being able to meet in person, neither the local lodge nor on the national or international levels, Freemasons took to the World Wide Web in order to lecture and to socialize. Dozens of initiatives have popped up, too many to mention them all. Our own lodge, Quattro Coronati number 2076, started to record, disseminate, and discuss its lectures digitally. The Grand Lodge of California has organized an online Masonic speaker series. And David Cicinazze from the Grand Lodge of Georgia in Europe started to record and broadcast lectures on Freemasonry, today arriving at the magic number of 100. These are just 3 examples out of dozens across different social media platforms that could be mentioned. The one remarkable thing with these initiatives is that this move created, perhaps for the first time as a tangible experience, a truly global community of Freemasons who, regardless of their jurisdiction and origin, were able to express and exchange their knowledge, ideas, and opinions about Freemasonry. These initiatives, and in particular the virtual order of Sapere Aude, truly became a center of union and the means of reconciliating true friendship among persons that must have remained at a perpetual distance. For having experienced this, I'm eternally grateful and would like to record my thanks to Brother David and the Grand Lodge of Georgia for having organized the series for the future. This is one of the hallmarks of 2020 and one that I sincerely hope will live on to the next century. The other remarkable element of what happened in 2020 is that knowledge about Freemasonry has been shared and disseminated at an unprecedented scale. We could not meet, but we made the year a year of Masonic education worldwide. And it is my sincere hope that we have made a giant leap. Knowledge is the basis of our common fight against ignorance, intolerance, and fundamentalism. Increased knowledge about ourselves as human beings, about Freemasonry and its place in the world, in history, culture, philosophy, religion, and arts, is what promises future development. The third heading I have given my address is beauty. Over this year and throughout the many discussions I have had with Freemasons and non-Freemasons about what constitutes Freemasonry, in its essence, I've made the case, and it's one that I would like to direct to future generations, that it is initiation. Without initiation, no Freemasonry. And this is the most basic rule that applies to all jurisdictions across the globe, regardless of regularity or recognition. What has distinguished Freemasonry over the last 300 years of its existence from other associations, clubs, and societies is the initiatory experience. This is what we do. Initiation is closely related to the enactment or performance of ritual, and it is live enactment and performance of ritual that currently is the main mode of initiating into the cognitive and bodily experience of Freemasonry, capturing all senses, immersing the individual into another state of physical and sensory impressions and consciousness. We can only speculate in terms of science fiction if future generations will be able to enact initiation without meeting in person or in a lodge room. But as long as we will meet in the physical beauty of our lodges and enact the full splendor of our rituals with dedication, we will keep the flame burning and pass it on to future generations. The Swedish Rite serves a case in point. Our rituals were revised more than 2 centuries ago and have remained more or less unchanged. Some inconsistencies were removed or redacted over time. Some solid ideas had to be tested against the more fluid spirit of the times. But in essence, the ritual experience our founding fathers had designed is still in place and attracts considerable attention. It is my sincere hope that future generations of Freemasonry will identify live enactment of ritual in their respective rites for the main purpose of initiation, the cornerstone of our activities. So taken together, the 3 pillars of Freemasonry, wisdom, strength, and beauty, are a winning formula for the future. With that, I mean that Freemasonry is, number 1, built upon knowledge to promote self-knowledge and to combat ignorance, intolerance, and fundamentalism. Number 2, it is built upon works like the constitutions that tell us what Freemasonry is, where it arguably comes from, and how it is organized, claiming its right of self-organization in society. And third, it is built upon direct experiential knowledge through initiation and ritual performance, opening up deeper levels of understanding ourselves and the world. So mote it be, Dixie.
Brother Jacques, floor is yours.
Dear brethren, I have entitled my short speech as "The Future Starts Today." What is absolutely sure is that I will not be around in this world in 100 years. That being said, the future cannot be but the continuation of the present, as much as the present is the result of the past, and so it has been from time immemorial. There is nothing new under the sun, stated already some 3,000 years ago, King Solomon, underlining that in human affairs there is never ever anything truly new, because every situation we may face has had some sort of precedent or echo in the past. In the light of this truth, King Solomon invites us wisely to enjoy the simple pleasures of daily life and to keep God's commandments, for that is the whole duty of man. All the rest we read in Ecclesiastes is but vanity, vanity of vanities, all is vanity, alluding to futile, illusory, empty, fragile, ephemeral acts of little long-term impact to the world. As Freemasons, we are taught to be honest and true, to regulate our life and actions according to the square, level, and plumb line, to harmonize our conduct with the principles of morality and virtue, and to limit our desires so that we may live respected and die regretted. We are also taught to regard the whole human species as one family, who are to aid, support, and protect each other. Built on this foundation, Freemasonry unites men of every country, religion, and opinion, and causes true friendship to exist among those who might otherwise have remained at a perpetual distance. This basic principle will still apply in 100 years. As the existence of the bee only makes sense when associated with the beehive, so likewise, Freemasonry teaches us to think and act as members of the human race with a vision and a plan reaching beyond the limited horizon of our personal interests, beyond the end of our own mortal life, into the common future of the human race in general and of Freemasonry in particular, spanning 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, and more. Even if we will not be there, what will happen in 2120 matters. As our fraternity is based on unanimity and concord, so may it long continue. May our children's children long enjoy satisfaction and delight that true friendship can afford. May kindness and brotherly affection distinguish their conduct as men and as Masons. And may the tenets of the craft be transmitted pure and unimpaired from generation to generation. We are fundamentally the same, physically and psychologically, as our distant ancestors thousands of years ago. Nothing in our essential nature as human beings has changed and will change in the future. 1 century on the scale of the history of mankind means nothing. Freemasonry transcends time and culture. Its values are eternal. Masonic tradition reports that the lapse of time, the ruthless hand of ignorance, and the devastations of war have laid waste and destroyed many civilizations in the past. Freemasonry, notwithstanding, has still survived. The attentive ear receives the sound from the instructive tongue, and the mysteries of Freemasonry are safely lodged in the repository of faithful breasts. Expressive Masonic symbols and allegories were selected by our founders and predecessors to imprint upon the memory wise and serious truths, and thus, through the succession of ages, the most excellent tenets of our institution are transmitted unimpaired. The phoenix rising from its ashes, the Temple of Jerusalem, rebuilt. The first lodges in Prague, Czech Republic, were founded around 1740, flourished till the end of the 18th century, and came to an abrupt end when Emperor Francis II, who was persuaded that Freemasonry was secretly conspiring against him, prohibited the order by edict in 1795. Freemasonry restarted from scratch, simultaneously with the birth of Czechoslovakia in 1919, after the end of World War and the fall of the Habsburg monarchy, and a gap that had lasted for more than 100 years. Within 20 years, Masonic membership grew miraculously from nothing to some 3,000, only to be suppressed brutally by the Nazis in 1938, followed shortly after World War II by a dreadful period of communist regime during which Freemasonry was again banned. The rebirth for the third time of Freemasonry took place in 1989 after a gap of 50 years. Freemasonry in the Czech Republic can be compared to the phoenix, the mythological bird that cyclically is destroyed by fire, regenerates by arising from its ashes, and never dies. Some ideas for the future. Mahatma Gandhi. The future depends on what we do now. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Makes your life a dream, and of a dream, make it a reality. We may find it hazardous to predict the future, but we can and must prepare for it. The future is in our hands. We are responsible for the world of our children, for the world that our children will inherit. Make it happen. Keep smiling. Have faith. Let's trust ourselves. Yes, we can. True and reliable friends matter in life. Do not ignore problems. Handle them, but do not stop. Go on. Freemasonry is an idea, our idea. Dixie.
Hello, brethren. My name is Francisco Roldan, Deputy Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Ecuador. My lecture is called Freemason for the Future. Dear brethren, Freemasonry is an august institution of tradition that contains an arcane history of development and gradual evolution of many centuries, presenting most parts of the world. Freemasonry is currently a victim of its own success, of its consonance with the ideas and principles it purposes. Freemasonry has propagated ideas since its modern foundation, which have spread and formed basics of the cultural, social, and moral conceptions that rule much of the world, especially in the Western Hemisphere. Freemasonry continued to universal brotherhood, spreading tolerance and meet understanding among men. It's linked undoubtedly to ancestral tradition based of every present, timeless wisdom, which teach allows putting into a daily practice, proving to the validity of the precepts for many generations. Our order has given humanity an gigantic ideological menu. Its ideas of living and sharing and fraternity unity are basics model of life community, where the respect of morality principles are important. That is why, however, what to discover the ideas of Freemasonry in the future will have the feeling, partly justified, that he can find them in the most elementary part of the human being, anywhere where the libertine spirit of the consciousness prevails. Freemasonry uses a symbolism based on the art and the craft of building and its tools. It is a perennial transmission because our entire model of civilization has based from the most remote antiquity of the principle of work in constant building. Among all the currents of thought, Freemasonry makes a synthesis between the idea of progress and spiritualism,
between innovation and tradition. In this sense, it constitutes an equally bulwark against invasive materialism, against the brute force of lack of thought. For all these reasons, we are convinced that it is justified to struggle for universal Freemasonry so its life and prevails. So we wonder, is Freemasonry strong enough to achieve this? First, Freemasonry has to face the competition and struggle to relieve and true information, which the telematic and mass media transmit with obscure interest. Freemasonry is a source of true over lies and a tool to value the ideal, living life with dignity and coherence. Freemasonry has always been a source of light, and thus is a struggle against fake and express results. By giving its members a sense of pertinence, all Freemasons are proud to be Freemasons. Our fraternity must grow in quality and quality with usable a dozen members. We, as a member of this order, must have high sense of criticism and nuance, far from any temptations of sectarism, so that spiritually we'll certainly participate in the idea that the visible is not the only real, but is the meantime. Our strict thought that leaves no room for approximations and semi-doctrines. We have to seek and depend why rigor otherwise. Our current thought can risk degenerating and ending up is not recognizing itself. This spirit of rigor, often in crisis, must be accompanied by a particular respect for the purity of our rites and rituals, which constitute its own identity, and therefore the very existence of Freemasonry depends on it. What will happen if the Freemasonry working according to all rituals, while others adopted reformed rituals? The confusion and the fragmentation would only get worse. Masonic rites and rituals are extraordinarily rich, and there it's considered old development. One life is not enough to understand them. The Freemasons' Union, their reflections are based on these ancient rituals. If we must modernize Freemasonry, it must be done in other points, by remaining faithful to its non-direct involvement in politics, which some brothers do not believe. The other must educate its members with their secular life to act in the spirit that constitutes the deep moral conviction propagated in the lodge. Freemason must be unite, tolerance, loyalty, a real construction spirit, and open to other men God will. In the future, their philosophical reflection should be useful to them so they can reality in daily life to what the activity in the lodge has taught them under the protection of symbols. Selfishness and disloyalty are the biggest enemies to defeat, and is only possible with the single works of us and the way we properly learn about our order, its history and its rituals. Solidarity among us and arms wide open the world is how we intend to approach the next century. Freemasons are human beings, and it's undoubtedly for this reason that very early in the history of the order were fights, mutual anathemas, and exclusions. There is a remarkable fact to take into account: separate breathing inside to keep in their uses that become our rituals. This shows how fruitful Masonic ideas and symbolism are for human mind. This leads us to this one conclusion: what divides breathing is less important than would unite us. This seems to augur a positive future. Anyhow, how make calm? Attempting to break down the boundaries of diversity does not seem to be right or path. Freemasonry has its own ideals that have a number of ways to believe it. In fact, Freemasonry never unite at all, because if it did, it would have been doomed to failure. Worse, it will be endless waste of energy for those involved with such work. We must accept the historical evidence of the cultural difference and practices in uses and customs of the first speculative Freemasons to understand that in the future, there should not be conditions of exclusion, but of tolerance, unity, in diversity. Cheers, all brethren, I have said.
Thank you so much. Next one comes Most Worshipful Brother Leon Zeldis, past Assistant Grandmaster, and from Israel. He has sent his speech to be delivered on his behalf, so it is my honor to read on Brother Leon Zeldis' behalf. Thoughts about the future of Freemasonry, Leon Zeldis. Freemasonry encompasses an incredible variety of traditions and procedures. It is most appropriate to mention the world compasses, since this instrument has a stationary leg firmly anchored in the center, while the other is free to roam around, expanding and extracting as required. The fixed center is the Masonic Lodge, which performs the foundational task of initiating a man into the immense world of Freemasonry in all its branches, orders, and degrees. The future of the Freemasonry depends therefore on the health, growth, and development of the lodges and their grand lodges. Masonic lodges must evolve with the times to cope with the social revolution produced by the unstoppable growth of electronic communications, networking, the cyber world in general. To survive in this new world, the lodge must evolve. Tradition must act as a compass pointing to the right course, but never as an anchor preventing progress. The world needs Freemasonry now more than ever in the past. Dark forces of tyranny, prejudice, and fanatical strife are gathering strength. Ignoring the dangers of current developments is a recipe for disaster. Our lodges offer a haven of peaceful coexistence between men of different colors, faiths, and political persuasions. Yet we are all firmly bonded in our search for truth and enlightenment by the forces of fraternity, tolerance, and charity. These are values that do not depend on the means of transmission or application. Let us find the way to attract as many your men as possible to join us in building a better world for themselves, their families, and their country. Lodges must stress the personal involvement of both its candidates and its members in performing Masonic ceremonies. They must leave a deep, permanent impression on the minds and hearts of those taking part in the performance. Finally, let me conclude by reminding us of the words in the Tyler's toast. To all pure and distressed Masons, whenever they may be on land, sea, or air, may the good Lord take pity of them, bring them from the darkness to light, and grant them safe journey back to their homeland, if that is their desire. Amen. And Dixie. Now I will invite Brother Salvador to take the floor, and I'll.
Good afternoon. It's a privilege and an honor to talk people like you, all of yours, and the future. I hope your cooperation for a read the speech. Así como Andrew Ramsay y Jonathan Swift en 1736 concibieron reunir en una fraternidad de individuos de todas las naciones para retomar algunas reglas olvidadas que obligaran al ser humano a superarse. Nosotros nos reunimos hoy convocados por la Gran Logia de Georgia y Lituania, coordinados por David Chichinatze, con el objetivo de unir las voces de distintas regiones del mundo en una visión futura de la humanidad. Debemos mantener siempre en nuestras mentes que el propósito de nuestra orden es consumar la gran obra, organizar al ser humano en una estructura social justa, moralmente correcta en cada tiempo y lugar, y progresista, que facilite el crecimiento intelectual y moral de cada individuo para que busque su bienestar y felicidad con libertad, desarrollando sus facultades y ejerciendo sus deberes y derechos. Visionar nuestro futuro requiere antes revisar nuestro pasado y ubicar bien nuestro presente. Somos parte de la historia reciente de la humanidad y estamos viendo un auge en los adelantos de las ciencias y las tecnologías. Hemos sido testigos del incremento de la capacidad humana buscando develar las verdades trascendentales. Hemos profundizado tanto en la ciencia de lo infinitesimal, desarrollando la física cuántica y las nanotecnologías, como en lo astronómicamente monumental, desarrollando tecnologías capaces de descubrir e inspeccionar agujeros negros. Todos estos adelantos son productos del triunfo de la verdad, de la justicia y el progreso sobre el yugo del absolutismo, época en que el hombre quiso gobernarse solo por la conciencia, descuidando la ciencia y las artes, y que provocó el sentimiento reemplazar a la razón, la imaginación a la inteligencia, e hiciera caer a la humanidad en el oscurantismo. En los últimos 250 años hemos experimentado el posicionamiento de la razón como la facultad cumbre que nos llevaría a la verdad. Entendimos que la verdad encontrada por la razón es la bandera real del progreso y debemos buscarla y defenderla a todo tránsite. En todo tiempo, la fuerza de la ley debe actuar para garantizarla. Hoy nos sumamos mujeres y hombres de todas las razas, credos religiosos, políticos, masones libres pensadores, buscando conciliar las formas de pensar de los 4 puntos cardinales de nuestro planeta. Las adversidades inmediatas nos atan al presente, exigiendo nuestros esfuerzos para superar la oscuridad de la enfermedad y de la intolerancia. El COVID-19 es la singularidad que está despertando al superhombre y que nos impulsa a la libertad, a la igualdad y a la fraternidad. Mas el progreso no se detiene. Los soldados de la luz caminamos siempre hacia adelante, jamás un paso atrás. Las plataformas digitales, las reuniones virtuales nos permiten una nueva realidad, un nuevo paradigma para fraternizar, pero al mismo tiempo un reto a la discreción y a la secrecía, una evolución en la seguridad contra la vulnerabilidad de la información o una adaptación de las formas de trabajo será necesaria. Quiero finalizar diciendo que el hombre, con el desarrollo de la conciencia, se convirtió en el punto en el que el proceso evolutivo del universo tomó conciencia de sí mismo. Posteriormente, con el desarrollo de la inteligencia, fue capaz de ajustar su realidad para cambiar su propia evolución, y más recientemente, con el desarrollo de la razón, está siendo capaz la verdad con paso firme. Sin embargo, toda esta evolución y el desarrollo de las facultades y capacidades, el desarrollo de la razón y la ciencia, solo han ayudado a liberarnos de supersticiones, mas no a revelar la verdad última. Las preguntas trascendentales siguen siendo las mismas y las verdades últimas siguen estando veladas al entendimiento. Es necesario que el hombre desarrolle nuevas facultades para asegurar su consolidación y descubrir su real y verdadera identidad, develar si realmente ha sido hecho a imagen y semejanza de la fuerza creadora del gran arquitecto del universo. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will start with another group, honorable lecturers on Sapere Aude. We start with Brother Hasu Joshi, who needs to prepare himself. I'll ask him to unmute.
Fraternal greetings, brothers, sisters, and non-Masons. My name is Worship Brother Hasselby. I'm a member of lodges and other orders under UGLE, Grand Lodge of India, Regular Grand Lodge of Serbia, Grand Lodge Legal of Portugal, only members of a number of Grand Lodges in Turkey, Croatia, Spain, and Sao Paulo in Brazil. Like the David has collected Masonic and esoteric nectar from all corners of the world, truly producing the golden honey of Masonic knowledge. The scholars, researchers, and all who have delivered papers have brought together those who wanted to expand their Masonic understanding, erasing the barriers of constitutions, jurisdictions, and regularity to create a harmonious world of brothers
Brother
and
Hasu, I
sisters
would
in an
interrupt you
open way,
and let's
true
try
treasure
again.
trove of grace to
Brother,
non-Masonic world.
Brother Hasu,
History
maybe you,
reminds us think, contemplate, analyze, and hopefully improve ourselves and our surroundings. And what we leave as a legacy has to reflect that we learned, understood, and at times disagreed. Recordings of the lectures and discussions are the essence of many a subject.
okay, Brother Hasu, we heard it quite bad. So if you want, we can try to re-record it a bit later because almost nothing is understandable. So I'll give the floor right now to Eden, and maybe we can do it without video.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Okay.
Good evening and fraternal greetings.
Can you hear me?
Okay, just 1 second, Brother Eden. Yeah, please continue. Brother Hasu, we will do it again. Sorry. Yeah, floor is yours.
Good evening and fraternal greetings, brothers and sisters. My name is Brother Eden Reeves, the Grand Secretary of the Grand Lodge of Liberia. I would like to, first of all, thank Brother David of the Grand Lodge of Georgia and Brother Bob Cooper of the Grand Lodge of Scotland for starting this glorious and innovative platform of learning and education, as well as networking. I have gotten to learn so much about the nuances of Freemasonry and a variety of topics. I've gotten to meet a lot of worthy Masons, and we explored topics that I've never had to, never thought about covering in such concentration and information. In hearing all of the eloquent speakers that have spoken on the various aspects, for me, my vision is that 100 years from now, Freemasons will have a virtual library of knowledge and information that expands thousands, hundreds of thousands of hours of information that they can use to expand their expanded knowledge. And we have the virtual order of Superior Order library of information as a key reference point that we'll use. And my good friend David will be I'll be proud to say that he will be a contemporary of mine, because he will be like the Albert Pike and the Albert Mackey of our days. David, you laugh, but this is a profound innovation that you have created into masonry, and it will only grow. It will only become more essential to what we do, and it will broaden and expand our horizons where we never thought possible. So without further ado, I say thank you. I thank all of the speakers who have and presenters over the last few months that have enriched our lives. And I look forward to being part of this glorious and innovative addition to Freemasonry. Again, I thank you all. I have said.
Fraternal greetings, brethren. My name is István Horváth, working in the past 20 years in the province of Ontario in Canada. Almost 140 years ago in my mother jurisdiction, a strange thing happened, something unheard of before and possibly even after. In the 1860s, after being banned for several decades, an Anglo type of Grand Lodge with craft lodges was formed, and in the same time, a Grand Orient working in the Scottish Rite 33 degrees was also instituted. As it happened so often, they were rivals. Then in 1886, they merged, forming the symbolic Grand Lodge of Hungary, and the Grand Lodge where I saw the light had the same name, more than 100 years later. True, more than half of that time, it was banned again. The Grand Lodge took care of the first 3 degrees and the new council of the ASR of the rest. Although it didn't last too long, only till the end of the First World War when it got banned again. But its legacy still persists. And when I am thinking about the future, the possible future of Freemasonry for the next generations, I always recall this unique event as an example that should be considered. Not necessarily the unification of the different branches, but a new approach to the universal brotherhood we preach so much about, quite hypocritically, to be honest. Because I am embarrassed when, after exposing the noble ideas of fraternity, I have to admit that we actually exclude a quarter of the world's Freemasons because of their tolerance and creed, and also a big group of Masons because of their skin color, not to mention half of the population because of their gender. Make no mistake, I like and I want to keep to preserve my male-only lodge and organization. Just feel ashamed when male Masons display unreasonable hatred toward women and atheist Masons that happen to teach the same spiritual and moral values in their own organization. Furthermore, for the future, let's end the colonial English paternalism toward the rest of the world. No Grand Lodge, including UGLE, should be in charge to define Masonry for others. The present worldwide structure is anachronistic, outdated, and shameful. And except the obvious financial scam type enterprises masquerading as Masons, all bodies should be in amicable relations. The Grand Lodges, the Grand Orients, the valleys, the chapters, even the big honchos of the future. That's what I envision for the future. A more inclusive mentality that does not exclude maintaining the specifics of each lodge and each Grand Lodge, but without the dogmatism of the present system. It's a medieval religious inheritance to think that everything that is not exactly as my belief must be heretic. So, without such a paradigm shift, which could be different from my vision, although the change must come, Freemasonry will die out. I wish the next generation to be smarter and wiser than we were. Dixie.
Sasha, floor is yours. You just need to speak.
My name is Sasha Chato, and among many other activities, I'm a historian and academic scholar of esotericism as a set of cultural phenomena that have impacted and shaped Western culture and society. Freemasonry has been one of my areas of focus, and I have been privileged to know the Acacia, as well as to delve into the history and evolution of Masonic thought in the European context. I perceive Freemasonry and related fraternal orders as a vehicle similar to Noah's Ark, crystallized into its current form to preserve traditions, philosophies, and currents of knowledge that were once threatened due to historical sociocultural changes, yet able to adapt to changing times, as the success of Sapere Aude demonstrates. When church authoritarianism and then religious wars tore through Europe from the medieval period until the late 17th century, the reaction to these events led to widespread secularization of society. The new age of science and reason that leapt towards progress and modernization left few ways to address timeless questions about the place of humanity in nature and the universe, human mortality, and the human condition. In this context, intellectuals and philosophers organized themselves into hierarchical, closed initiatory orders, with deeply symbolic rituals that encoded, fused, and preserved a value system alongside diverse philosophical and esoteric traditions that dealt with the great questions that the new age of reason had left by the wayside. The essence of these teachings was encoded into the ritual itself, into a three-dimensional space, the temple, and a series of sacred initiatory dramas, the rituals. It didn't matter whether all the actors in these dramas understood every word and symbol. What mattered was passing them down the generations. There would always be some who would go further than others in decoding and interpreting the content, but either way, the knowledge would survive, like passing on a book through the generations, even if one never reads it oneself. We no longer burn books, but Freemasonry still has a significant role to play in the modern world as a vehicle for these traditions that take human nature into account. It is a school in every sense of the word, in which even if esoteric and mystical pursuits are not for us, we can still gain much through associating with people from all walks of life in terms of the self-discipline it imposes and the values it embodies. However, to be effective, it must ensure that other issues do not overshadow its potential for community building in a spirit of liberty, equality, true equality, and fraternity. My own hopes and visions of Freemasonry are expressed in an ancient Babylonian legend regarding the symbolism of the two pillars at the entrance of the lodge, mentioned in the early Masonic Regis and Cook manuscripts. According to the medieval retelling, an ancient priest had a vision of the Great Flood, so he recorded the 7 liberal arts comprising all human learning on 2 columns, reflecting the biblical reference to Solomon's temple. One was made of marble, the other of baked clay, so they could not be destroyed by either fire or water, and supposedly one was rediscovered by Pythagoras and the other by Hermes Trismegistus, who then gave back the lost knowledge to humanity. The 7 liberal arts were the historical cornerstones of classical learning attributed to Pythagoras. They are built into specific elements of the foundational symbolic Masonic degrees, whereby initiates are instructed to study and contemplate them. The 7 arts comprise the trivium of grammar, logic, and rhetoric that address the position of the individual in the material and social world, and the quadrivium of arithmetic, geometry, musical harmony, and astronomy, addressing the role, functions, and creative capacity of the mind. Only after fully mastering them all could an individual progress to the study of philosophy or architecture, once regarded as the capstones of human capability. Thus, before becoming a master, an initiate is expected to study and internalize all human knowledge and not simply learn them by rote. In a sense, the Sapere Aude lectures reflect this principle. According to the creators of the relevant degrees, 5 full years of proper study were required for an individual to truly penetrate the symbolic and philosophical meanings embedded in Masonic ritual, starting with the human capacity for creation and the right to practice it. My hope for the next century is for this element, often neglected or only seen symbolically, to be re-examined, taken, and implemented literally. Imagine the possibilities. I have spoken.
Brother Rui, you can share your screen now.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to be again disruptive, and I have something to share with you. It is about my visions and my concern, my fears, and my hope for the future. So let me share my screen. Okay, and let's start with a Portuguese guitar fado. Okay, so let's go.
Put it on the yes. No sound, Rui.
Sorry, I repeat again. Oh, sorry, David. Oh, shit. It's not supposed to finish, so I prepared the music, but let's continue. I'm sorry, David, I'm sorry.
Don't worry, just continue on as it is, and then we'll do something later on.
Okay. So this is my hope, and I'm finished. Okay. So the idea is not to talk and hearing the Portuguese guitar fado. So anyway, so I'm finished, David. Thank you very much.
Brother Felipe, floor is yours.
All right. Okay, thank you, Brother David. Can you see me?
Yes,
okay.
Go ahead.
All right, so my name is Felipe Corteal de Camargo. I am a Freemason member of the Brunel Lodge at the city of Bristol and a historian working for the University of Bristol. So in 1978, a French historian called Jacques Le Goff wrote that every document is a monument. Consequently, this time capsule is not only a document offering a snippet of the state of things in 2020, but also a monument. But a monument to what? I would say that first and foremost, to we, the people talking here, we are vain, far from perfect, and that is one of the reasons why Freemasonry is still relevant. Second, it's a monument to Freemasonry, since we believe that our Masonic affiliation made a difference in our lives. And I hope Freemasonry is still or even more pertinent in the future. And third, a monument to Sapere Aude and its active members, the Saperiaudians, and to Brother David Cicinate, who generously donated his time to offer us and to you in the future a fair picture of the state of research on the history of Freemasonry. The archive of lectures And after lecture discussions generated by this group is a time capsule in itself. A document, like a time capsule, is always a message of hope, since we believe there is going to be a future, and that within this future, Freemasonry still exists. It is also a message of caring, meaning this is us thinking about you. And we don't even know who you are, but we know that we are bonded to our past and future brethren. Personally, I hope Freemasonry is still relevant. However, to be so, we probably changed a lot as an institution, and as little as possible as far ritual performance is concerned. Also, I expect there are plenty of traditions preserved, to the point of making us folkloric even. Otherwise, Freemasonry is just a club. I hope you find us archaic. Otherwise, nothing much changed, and that should worry you. Nonetheless, go beyond the surface. Pay attention to our choice of words, to our behavior, to our points of view, to our readings, to our smiles and silences. This will reveal more about these times than what we are saying. Go after the things that we did not talk about. That is the advice of the Freemason and of the historian. I have said.
Thank you. My name is Cleola Bostic. I'm a Masonic researcher. And here's my t-shirt, David. I am the incoming 2021 second vice president for the Maryland Masonic Research Society. I'm a member of the Grand Lodge Féminin de Belgique, also known as Women's Grand Lodge of Belgium, USA lodges here in the US. My vision. I heard someone say, or I read it somewhere, that women are the future of Freemasonry. My vision for Freemasonry is to uphold the dreams of Hannah Mather Crocker, and that's looking to the past. Her wish was that women in America claim their place as active participants in the craft through its values, principles, and education. The wisdom in unity and diversity will teach us the true meaning of freedom, equality, and fraternity. We as women are stronger together than divided in order to promote positive and humanistic change in society. I would like to thank Brother David Cincinnati and the Grand Lodge of Georgia for extending fellowship and allowing women lecturers. Additionally, I appreciate the empowering presentation from Brother Andreas Ornfors highlighting women's history in the craft, as well as enlightening discussions with Brother Bob Cooper. Thank you all for the opportunity and friendship. I have spoken.
Hi, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me, dear brother David Cincinnati, and also to congratulate this 100th edition of Sapori Out. It's an honor to stand side by side with great Masonic authors and researchers on this very special day. I am Gustavo Vernasque Patut from Curitiba, Brazil, and researcher of French or Modern Rite and writer of Introduction to the Modern Rite or the Foundational Rite of Modern Speculative Freemason book. Regarding the subject, my personal view of Freemasonry for the future. I try to evaluate everything in my life on an easier and more practical way, even to seek a fast understanding and fast execution. With Masonry, it's not different. After an analysis of its past, present, and research through many statistical data developed by many researchers, I came to the conclusion at this point that Freemasonry that we know has speculative, theoretical, adjective that analyze something to know, which is in the realm of reason, of theory, of speculative study. It shows us that the essence of this Freemasonry is in the studies. So, I ask you a question to the audience as well as to those this video will reach. How many people in your lodge are dedicated to study? 2, 3 people only? Only entered apprentice, fellowcraft, master masons? How much time is it spent in lodge to the purpose of seeking for more light? Is it not necessary to challenge the Britain for more studies? Think about these reflections. I could imagine about the future of our order. We should see at least a respect and a joint agenda with predefined goals between Anglo-Saxon and continental Masonry in order to foster a greater integration between the different Freemasons in the world. After all, in addition to being a fraternal, it should be a center of union, as stated in Anderson's 1723 Constitution. I don't think on a union with visit in lodges, but through politics and research actions of respect, seeking the same purpose for different themes. I believe that on this way, all Freemasons would be able to grow much more faster. I don't see the union in lodges, but through Congress and to outline common goals. I see that splits, lack of brotherhood, and intolerance occurred due to obscurantism, dogma prevailing over reasons. If we compare the Freemason institution with the corporate world, we will notice that if it's not well managed, its extinction or division will occur. If it becomes well managed, with clear management and predefined objectives where everyone can understand, the odds of achieving success in your goals and objectives will be much higher. Note that when we discuss Freemasonry, a lot of information is confusing. For example, like when we deal with landmarks of the order and so many other concepts. This is called lack of studies and understanding. I see Freemasonry become more and more inclusive and secular in order to be able to receive members of different religions in the world. A greater opening will be necessary, making the transition from theism that exists in Anglo-Saxon Freemasonry to deism as stated in the Constitution of 1723. Just change this point would be a fantastic advance. Fostering more and more studies means knowing our past, living the present through good examples, and building a bright future to the order. Just want to improve ourselves and work. Even being a Freemason to work and improve ourselves, I believe this vision is not difficult to achieve. We just need to want. Fraternal Hegart from Brazil, I have said.
Yes, Brother Bob. Go ahead, please. Brother Robert.
Evening, friends. My name is Robert Bashford. I'm the current secretary of the Irish Lodge of Masonic Research number 200, the only research lodge warranted by the Grand Lodge of Ireland under the Irish Constitution. Now, as a Masonic historian, my primary duty is to research, prepare, and present aspects of Irish Masonic history to our Masonic brethren of today, to better prepare them with the proper information to assist them in the years ahead, to take the correct decisions based on our collective fund of experience and knowledge gained from our Masonic history, and to assist them to continue the expansion and growth of the Irish Constitution for the next 100 years of our Masonic existence. I would take this opportunity to congratulate Super Ode on the growing success of their initiative that now celebrates its 100th presentation here this evening. Now, my researches into our craft history indicate that the workings of our order in Ireland over the past 300 years clearly reflect the existing social structures and constraints imposed on society at large. Probably the simplest way to set out these thoughts is with the very simple phrase that we as Freemasons of Ireland are a part of society, not apart from society. Unlike many other constitutions, we in Ireland have a membership from all tiers of society, and the breadth of our membership gives us great strength and resilience to meet many of the challenges that life will invariably present. Now, there's no doubt that our last difficult 6-month period, with no physical Masonic meetings here in Ireland, a situation that will continue until the end of January 2021 at the earliest, and indeed similar problems current in other jurisdictions around the globe, that our friends in Super Ode are right on the pulse in respect of a changing Masonic infrastructure in the years ahead. Groups like Super Ode and Lodge Hope of Karachi, CC7 in Scotland, have led the way in demonstrating the benefits of technology, and indeed in this instance Zoom, to bring Masonic research and presentations safely and securely to interested parties around the globe. But of course we shouldn't forget our good friend Albert McClelland and the Grand Lodge of Indiana, who first hosted a series of video presentations back in the year 2011, which first brought international Masonic researchers together in a series of 48 weekly presentations, which I understand still survives to this day, somewhere in the ether. Now, it's my belief that at an individual level, we as Freemasons will continue our journey of personal discovery and development, but using a greater percentage of digital material in the years ahead. Our overall membership may well reduce for a while, but as history shows, the Masonic Order has enjoyed many peaks and troughs in Ireland over the past 300 years. COVID, bad and all as it may be, will ultimately fall into that pattern of medical emergencies such as the cholera epidemics, the Irish famine, and indeed the Spanish flu, which all in their times affected membership in the Masonic Order. And I'm quite sure other further unknown viruses will be released upon us in the years ahead. The Freemasonry has become a universal organization comprising many separate constitutions, working in countries around the globe. This being the case, we all in our individual constitutions still have to remain vigilant that our well-respected corporate identity will not be damaged by a bad apple in the box. This has been done very successfully over the past 200 years, thanks to the strong guidance given by the 3 home constitutions. And I hope that this develops and continues in line with modern technology in the years ahead. I'm clearly of the opinion that World Masonry still requires that firm hand and oversight exerted by means of regularity and recognition as that final arbiter of control on some of those younger and less experienced Grand Lodges around the globe. Brethren, as we sit here this evening, we are in so many ways on the cusp of a new approach to Freemasonry, coming initially in response to COVID. But in my experience, our membership reflects many differing strands of interest, from an interest in ritual, an interest in administration, and an interest in history and symbolism. Then we have another large number of members in every lodge who come along to meetings with no particular desire for office, but who do attend regularly to enjoy the fellowship and conviviality with their brethren. Indeed, as the treasurers in this group will be only too aware, we need to maintain current membership levels to ensure that our individual lodges will continue to exist. So despite the obvious advantages of the Internet Lodge, I remain confident that our lodges will continue to exist and indeed provide a safe and secure venue to help our elderly brethren enjoy both company and crack in the midst of their brethren. And finally, as a past provincial museum curator, I'd also urge that we continue to collect and present in their proper settings items from our illustrious past, for the education and indeed entertainment of our brethren and the public at large. Sadly, in many provinces and constitutions, the ruling administrations give more account to costs and fail to recognize the importance of preserving and presenting our history for the benefit of others. After all, friends, if we cannot be bothered to present our own history to the world, why should we expect others to do it for us? Rather, our future is there in front of us, and I hope that in 100 years' time, our records, artifacts, books, jewels, and certificates will be preserved and center stage in all of our constitutions as a shining beacon of the many worthy works completed by Freemasons over the last 400 years, or so at least I've said.
Future Masons and Masons in the future. I won't present myself because that would be about me. Instead, I will deliver you my message because that one is about you. Freemasonry is the largest and oldest association of enlightened men in the world. Men who work together for intellectual and moral betterment of humanity so that justice and brotherhood may prevail in all human interactions. The goal is perfection. And even if we know that we never reach it in our lives, we strive to get as close as possible because if we don't aim for the stars, we cannot reach the topmost branch of the tree. Freemasonry is not a religion and is not a cult. But it binds brothers together by virtues and tenets in a common goal, sealed by solemn obligations to uphold justice, integrity, goodwill, devotion to our fellow man, and perseverance to do good in all our actions during our existence on this earth. In this sense, it teaches members that both successes and failures of one of us belong to each of us. And thus, we should never forget to spread the cement of brotherly love. It teaches us to notice those who are in need and to do whatever in one's power to relieve their sufferings. It teaches that no matter how dark the times, how many the obstacles imposed by ignorance and superstition, truth will always prevail. Human nature is not without flaw, but it has the divine attribute to evolve and transcend its condition. Masons are taught that they should always actively empower progress. Without idleness, they should rectify the flaws and heal the effects these produce in society, thus living a life of integrity in service of humanity. Freemasonry has its own currency, and it is the most efficient one, where all other currencies are useless or depreciate over time because of the social influences over it. This currency is a Mason's word, and once given, it will not deflate and devalue, but will remain eternally consistent. We Masons are builders, and like any construction projects, some things need to come down to be replaced by other more useful things. So we tear down the walls erected by prejudice and intolerance to divide people, and we replace them with bridges of understanding to unite that has been divided. We erect houses of liberty and freedom in places of the dungeons of slavery and oppression that we have torn down. This labor is a labor of love, and we learn that it is not an individual one, but a collective one. Blueprints for these buildings are as many as Masons are, but we work together on each of them, and we are always eager to give a helping hand to a brother who needs it in his own building project. Our work is a journey that we bravely undertake, never knowing where it will end, or when time calls upon us to lay down our working tools and retire to the Grand Lodge above. And it is not a journey in vain, like that of a madman wandering the streets in confusion, because we are not alone. Other journeymen are on this path too, and meeting each other by knowing them and learning from them, it brings us a step forward in the right direction. The journey of a life lived by Masonic values is always supported by men of integrity that share common values and are prepared to lift you up by the master's grip every time you fall down. History has recorded many times, maybe a few times too many, episodes in the human existence where mankind got infected with the diseases of materialism. Our temples are true houses of healing, where to the materialistic infection the right spiritual cure is given. No matter how dire the times, the spirit of enlightenment found refuge in the house of the Masons, and from there it spread to the conscience of free men with high morals, who look in his fellow man for those virtues dear to him, not rank, title, or material conditions. This is the legacy we received, we kept, and transmitted to further generations, and it is also the legacy you have to keep and transmit for generations to come. We are not just men, we are Masons, and Masons' existence is always threefold. We have to have a profound understanding of the past, consciously live and enjoy the present, and never forget to think about the future. This legacy is not a burden. It is an enjoyable labor of love, and with it come the blueprints, the tools, and all the wages that are needed to make this legacy relevant in every time, no matter the circumstances. Cherish it, protect it, and value it. Share it with your family, friends, and neighbors. As in the past, today, and in the future, humanity will always need more Masons. So mote it be, and may God preserve the craft. Dixit.
Brother Hasu, floor is yours.
Fraternal greetings, brothers, sisters, and non-Masons. My name is Worship Brother Hasu Joshi. I am currently a member of a number of Grand Lodges around the world, and it gives me a great pleasure to be asked to say a few words. Like the bee, David has collected Masonic and esoteric nectar from all corners of the world, truly producing the golden honey of Masonic knowledge. The scholars, researchers, and all who have delivered papers and brought together those who wanted to expand their Masonic understanding, erasing the barriers of constitutions, jurisdictions, and regularity to create a harmonious world of brothers and sisters and opening the true treasure trove of Masonry to the non-Masonic world. History reminds us to think, contemplate, analyze, and hopefully improve ourselves and our surroundings. And what we may leave as a legacy has to reflect that we learned, understood, and at times disagreed. The recordings of the lectures and discussions are the essence of many a subject that was under a shroud of darkness and ignorance, where we can truly say that we have been gently guided onto the path of enlightenment. The future generation will be blessed, that they will be privileged to have the font of Masonic and esoteric knowledge ready and available at their fingertips. We live today in a world in turmoil, and Masonry is an oasis of peace. And I pray and hope that this which existed in the past, exists today, and will exist in the future, that the future generations will enjoy and contemplate Masonry and get the pleasure that we get out of Masonry. Learn well, apply wisely, and remember there is always truth in all we see, observe, and hear. I'd like to congratulate David for his work and vision, and the Grand Lodge of Georgia and Lithuania for their support. The brave new world of Masonry and esoteric knowledge has begun, and the future looks bright. Dixit.
Brother David, you can start.
Yeah, yes, okay. Yes. I thank Brother David Tichenadze and the Grand Lodge of Georgia for this opportunity to express my hopes for the future. My name is David Slater. I have been a Freemason since 1983 and am the current Master of the Discovery Lodge of Research in the jurisdiction of the United Grand Lodge of New South Wales and the Australian Capital Territory. We need to attract young people into Masonry. In my jurisdiction, a number of younger members has been obtained through advertising on Facebook. The other problem, of course, is that of retention. A little over a decade ago, the Grand Master of my jurisdiction at that time initiated a scheme that encouraged the input of young Freemasons. They were called 2020 Masons, and they were encouraged to express their opinions, meet together, and contribute to the welfare of the craft. My son Alex was a 2020 Mason. It continued to the end of that Grand Master's term when it was replaced by another scheme. I'm sure other jurisdictions have similar programs. Freemasonry can mean different things to different people. Some like the ritual, others like the camaraderie at the festive board, yet others like the opportunity to assist in charitable undertakings. Many enjoy more than one of these activities. However, there is a side of Freemasonry that some jurisdictions do not encourage. This is the exploration of the esoteric side of the craft. I genuinely believe it exists, and I feel that it should be given more emphasis than it has at present. I also feel that Freemasonry needs to change with the times. Male Masonry should recognise that female and mixed Masonry are genuine. The world in which we now live acknowledges the equality of women and men, and so should the craft. I also feel that we should recognise orders in which a belief in a divine entity is not required, as these orders give to their members the opportunity to obtain much, if not all, of the insights of Freemasonry. Freemasonry has to develop with the times. For instance, after the experiences of this year, I am sure that many lodges will hold their management meetings via Zoom or similar applications, even when the pandemic is no longer a threat. Meeting together in a lodge room is the best and is required for degree work, but even these, as well as lectures, can be simultaneously conveyed to older and incapacitated brethren via video, who would then be able to experience Freemasonic meetings. At present, quarterly communications are video to various Masonic centres. Why not meetings to members' computers? When a master is installed in some jurisdictions, he has to, quote, admit that it is not in the power of any man or body of men to make innovation in the body of Masonry, unquote. As it is obvious that innovation has been made, I submitted a suggestion in June 2010 via the questions on notice segment then held at quarterly communications, that it would make sense if the words, quote, without the consent first obtained of the Grand Lodge, unquote, which appears in Anderson's constitutions, were added. The answer was given in 1,445 words, but in essence, it stated that what was meant was that it was only the landmarks of the order that cannot be changed. Fine, but there is no agreement on what these landmarks are. Also, in my opinion, this is not obvious to the master-elect making the admission. I saw my suggestion as being of assistance to Grand Lodges, but it did not result in any change. So in summary, I feel that Freemasonry in the future should use advertising methods that appeal to the young, take into account the opinions of younger members, encourage members who wish to explore the esoteric components of the craft, recognise the different forms of Freemasonry which are now considered irregular, use video to include members no longer able to attend meetings, and make it clear that it is within the power of people to introduce innovations as Masonry develops. These are some of my hopes for the future, and these are what, optimistically, I would like to see developed in Freemasonry, hopefully in a lesser time than 100 years. Dixit.
This is Renan Mengü, Lodge Köken, number 52 of Progressive Grand Lodge of Turkey. What is said to be said, and messages are given to us and to all the future Masons and non-Masons. So I thank you very much, dearest brother David and your team, for the incredible job you have done. With your favor, I have learned much. Also, I had many new brothers and sisters all around the world. You will be remembered in the future of Freemasonry with golden letters written in the history. To symbolize your efforts and the 100th lecture, I take this opportunity to honor you with a small gift, and probably, I think, Brother Turan will send it to you. I think at the back, you have the VOSA logo, and in the front, I think it's very small letters. I will read it to you, to all the brethren and sisters. To dearest brother David Chichinadze, who gathered brothers and sisters around the world under the roof of VOSA. On behalf of all the participants of VOSA, Renan Mengü, 25th of October, 2020. Thank you. Dixie.
My name is Savino Batanov. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, or whatever part of the 24-inch gauge in your part of the world is. We owe enormous gratitude to Sapere Aude and its founders, and the personality of Brother David, Brother Robert, and all other brethren, lecturers, and participants for the achievement of this cornerstone today. Dear brethren, I bring you the fraternal greetings of Lord York number 1, working under the role of the Grand Lodge of Principality Liechtenstein, and I'm the current sitting master of this lodge. I strongly believe that in 100 years time capsule, when you're going to watch this message, a lot of you will be able to work somewhere in the universe, taking a part of your lodge, of your Grand Lodge, your country, nation, and particular ritual that you use. It is my sincere belief that you will be truly engaged. And when I say engaged, I mean really to be deep engaged into this unique brotherhood, but be more than ever there in the universe, united, more kind to each other in your pursuit of researching the universe, offer it and open to us from its grand architect. I raise the glass of the rest of the malt to the glory of our brotherhood, and may God preserve our noble fraternity. I have said, thank you.
Brother Abe, floor is all yours.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Perfect. Good afternoon, brethren. My name is Worshipful Brother Abraham Metz, and I come to you under the jurisdiction of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge, Free and Accepted Masons of Florida, and bring you fraternal greetings from our Most Worshipful Grand Master Thomas Turlington. Since 1960, there has been a steady decline in membership of regular Freemasonry. In actual fact, the decline began 15 years earlier than that, and it wasn't noticed until about 20 years later. And when the 4% decline continues, membership has been decreasing half about every 20 years. So how has our institution responded? Well, from about 2000 to 2010, many lodges and grand lodges had websites where they proudly stated how many lodge members they had. But as the membership numbers kept failing, these numbers disappeared. And now the numbers are no longer being tracked properly because there's no one left to do the counting. It seems very likely that Freemasonry that will not change will shrink drastically. Even then, the orthodoxy has been changing drastically all along while disparaging the very idea of change itself. And that is one of the most self-harming myths of our fraternity. So what are our major obstacles? Dysfunctional governance, dogmatism, orthodoxy, territory, race, religion, or a combination of these. Meanwhile, postmodernism and the culture wars, particularly in the US and Canada, have created a new reality of identity politics, where race, sex, religion have a new privileged status in the intersectional hierarchy, quite different from the Enlightenment values of the quality that was expected 50 years ago. Where we are now is the patriarchy, colonialism, capitalism, merit, reason, must all be destroyed to save the planet, or to let a new order emerge from the chaos, or at least to satisfy a collective sense of envy, resentment, destructiveness, and violence by those who feel entitled to be the new oppressors. It is conceivable that some will turn to Freemasonry as refuge, or a place of peace and harmony away from such madness. And still, Freemasonry is banned in totalitarian states and by authoritarian religions, which accounts for at least 60% of the world's population. This has been getting worse over the past few decades. Will it get better, or will it get worse? Ironically, Freemasonry was far ahead of ordinary society at the beginning of the Enlightenment era 300 years ago. The best of society, at least in a civilized world, has caught up and perhaps surpassed that standard. So my friends and brothers, where I see our fraternity in 100 years from now is we will still be around. And as long as we are always able to meet upon that level and have these great discussions of interesting, esoteric, and important topics, and to always remember to be open and willing to receive other points of view, I firmly believe that we will be around for many more decades. May the great architect of the universe continue to bless all of us. Thank you for your time, for your friendship. Good day. Salanchi, I have spoken.
With this, the third group is finished. So we will start with the next group participants. You will have 2 minutes to start with. So please, we'll start with Brother Sanjay from Mauritius.
Greetings, brethren and sisters. I am worshipful brother Sanjay Ramgati, the current master of Phoenix Lodge number 3602. After so many distinguished speakers that have inspired us on the future of Freemasonry, I will restrict myself to Mauritius as an example. I am from Mauritius, an island state off the east coast of Madagascar in the Indian Ocean. The people of Mauritius today are all descendants of European settlers, of African slaves, Indian indentured laborers, and Chinese traders, all living together in peace and harmony for the economic prosperity of the country. Mauritius is known to be a melting pot of cultures and religions, as across the generations, the different ethnic communities have kept alive ancestral cultures, religion, and traditions across generations. However beautiful that might be, this has not allowed a homogeneous blend to create a Mauritian culture due to mistrust resulting from the inherited religious and cultural bias. Freemasonry, with a history of over 200 years in Mauritius, has had a great contribution, though not well known, in building the Mauritian nation. Although initially restricted to the elites, Freemasonry has gradually opened up its doors to all communities, and this has changed how Freemasonry is viewed and given it new purpose. Today, Freemasonry in Mauritius is a platform for people from different communities and religions to meet and better understand each other. Brotherhood based on equality and universal moral values is a more solid bond than relying on mere mutual economic interests for cohesion. In the next 100 years, Freemasonry will have an important role to play in Mauritius to bring about a more coherent, just, and equitable society, one in which cultural and religious hurdles have been transcended. Furthermore, degradation of moral values among the younger generation is a critical problem that will need to be addressed. Freemasonry undoubtedly can and should help set the moral values and standards of the future generation by teaching the ideals and principles that distinguish between right and wrong in a secular environment. In the 100 years from now, I believe Freemasonry will no longer be a secret society in Mauritius, but rather a respectful and respected institution having a recognized track record in helping build the Mauritian nation of tomorrow. And I, for one, believe that this Mauritian example of unity in diversity will shine like a beacon to the world. Thank you, brethren. I have said.
Brothers and sisters, I'm honored to reflect on 4 decades as an English Freemason and to share my vision of the future. I joined Freemasonry when I was 27 years old. It was exciting, a step into the unknown, a complete removal from routine. When the lodge doors close, we are in a place of peace and friendship. I made new friends and brothers of all ages. They welcomed me as an equal, and we enriched each other's lives, not in a monetary sense, but simply kindness, brotherhood, and caring. I found great pleasure in learning and delivering our rituals, expanding my horizons, and more importantly, working as a team to encourage and promote confidence in others. Amongst my fondest memories are conducting my younger son's initiation and later his exaltation in the Holy Royal Arch. Also, my father's installation as first-time worshipful master, aged 92 years young. We were always taught Masonry was universal, and our ceremonies promote this. I've experienced many delightful visits to overseas lodges, in Israel, the USA, Sweden, and elsewhere. The present pandemic sparked a great possibility for virtual visitation, and the tireless effort spearheaded by Brother David Chichinadze and the Grand Lodge of Georgia must be applauded. You've provided a platform that has brought so many of us together in love and friendship, demonstrating the true spirit of Masonry. In my view, modern Masonry will continue in its existing form, largely unchanged. It is a fraternity and a sorority with timeless values. I believe we are all eager to preserve these for generations to come. Thank you. Dixit.
Richard, you just need to start.
Thank you, brothers. Thank you, David and Vusa on its 100th episode. My humble thoughts on the future of humanity and brethren in the next 100 years. I would like to talk about three key areas: the body, the mind, and the soul. An alchemy of universal proportions and resonates into two different actions. Reaction, either it's an action and it's a reaction. It's we who are going to become multi-planetary beings guided by the universal bodhisattvas to other infinite dimensions, or are we going to remain confined to one planet and eventually there's going to be an extinction event? However, we place ourselves along that line. Will we be how we describe the true path of humanity and how we develop our virtues over the next 100 years? All we need to know is that we are all one and all interconnected in an amalgamation of infinite love, and that nothing, no one, and nothing in this universe can be extinguished, can only be transformed. Yet still we must turn to task and aid the sages of each manvantara who build with the builders of time. We must always remember that to walk the ladder, up or down, we can only be attempted by the purest of heart. And all may try, but few shall pass, unless with truth and love they are guided to walk the straight and undeviated line of truth and knowledge and life. For no law should be created to oppress, except one truth, love in its true form of universal meaning. We whose hand is guided by the great geometrician of the universe and mother of the multiverses. Guide us all in seeking to be more compassionate and understanding to all living creatures and nature, with wisdom to guide all of us through the darkness into the light, connecting everything in the Akashic and spatial realm, a drama to the sun and its glory, knowing that each brother and sister is akin to the great white brotherhood, as we are all vibrating particles of magical stardust in the same broken vessel, destined to be its caretakers. May we see the stars and grow with the knowledge of truth in our hearts. I would like to note that my daughter Armaiti and my wife Tina, for without the connection of family, brotherhood, and love, no matter how hard it may seem, nothing is as it seems. Thankful that my heart has completed its destiny, I wish each one of you 100 years hence to take care and love those precious to you and those who have joined us through the journey called life, and those who will join us in the future journeys of our existence in this universe. We stand with you through the ether of time. As Nikola Tesla quoted, if you want to find the truths of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. That was 100 years ago. Sometimes it takes another 100 years for more clarity and realization. So let's step into the new world, and Aurea Mediocritas means the golden means. Yeah, may we all spiral to the heavens above. And much like the rough ashlar, may I pass my stone to the future for a smoother finish. Thank you, brother David. My name is Richard Mehta from Saurabh Dabra Lodge, number 113. So moted.
Brother Jawad, floor is yours.
Thank you, Brother David.
Good day, all my brethren and sisters. My name is Jawad Gürer. I am a Freemason from Istanbul, Turkey. With the pandemic of COVID-19, lodges around the world have begun to hold some of their meetings virtually. This, of course, begs the question of whether Freemasonry is heading to a new era after that of speculative masonry. This may be so if considered that one can participate in a lodge meeting held anywhere in the world in the comfort of one's home. In terms of convenience, the physical lodge meeting would hardly compete with the virtual one. Even in the post-pandemic world, lodges will continue to use this tool. The second issue is the universality of the brotherhood. The essence of Freemasonry is unity through brotherhood. To ensure this unity, there may be some alterations to the current rules. The relevant rules may be repealed or ignored by the grand jurisdictions due to the coercive situation of the declining membership. In contrast to today's disharmony, the Masonic community in the next century or much earlier will learn to coexist and work in a harmony. The disunity existed between grand lodges on the grounds of recognition, regularity, or gender will cease, as the situation today is deeply offensive and against all Masonic principles. Moreover, such divisions are unworthy of Freemasons. Finally, Freemasons work to the perfection of humanity. Any kind of division cripples its functioning. Therefore, inclusiveness is the primacy of Freemasonry. Spare Audi is the future, in short. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Brother David, for all you have done for us. Dixit.
Good evening to one and all. I am Joseph Rodrigues, past Grand Standard Bearer of the Grand Lodge of India and past Deputy Regional Grand Master of the Regional Grand Lodge of Southern India. I'm delighted to be here this evening to celebrate this 100th edition of the virtual order of Sapere all-day lectures being held during this COVID-19 pandemic lockdown. This online lecture series on Freemasonry, presented by prominent Masonic historians, scholars, writers, authors, researchers, etc., aim to demonstrate a range of new perspectives for Freemasons. By listening to these Sapere all-day lectures and presentations has helped me to learn and enrich myself a lot by this process. These virtual talks are also an expedient method of providing Masonic education to the brethren, and this trend will continue to the next century. These Sapere all-day lectures have drawn Freemasons from all parts of the globe to participate on this online platform for a common purpose of acquiring more information, insight, and knowledge on the history and origins of Freemasonry in various parts of the world, the various rituals and practices being followed by the various Grand Lodges, and about all the higher and progressive degrees of Freemasonry being practiced formally and recently too. It is amazing to listen to the guest speakers from all over the world who have converged at the Sapere Alde virtual meeting to share their knowledge on research topics on various aspects of Freemasonry. This Sapere Alde virtual meetings have given me a wonderful opportunity to meet, see, and speak to a large majority of brethren from the fraternity worldwide and become friends in a short span of time, which otherwise would not have been possible. I must thank most worshipful brother Vakta Japaridze, most worshipful the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Georgia, for arranging this Sapere Alde lectures. Last but not the least, I must thank the handsome and charismatic Right Worshipful Brother David Chichinadze, the Assistant Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Georgia, for being the perfect host of this virtual order of Sapere Alde, and for the excellent manner in which he has conducted this lecture series single-handedly in an impeccable manner. I also thank all the officers of the Grand Lodge of Georgia and wish the Grand Lodge of Georgia a happy 5th anniversary. And I also hope that Grand Lodge of Georgia will grow to greater heights in the near future. Thank you and cheers to all, especially to David and to all the participants. God bless.
Brother Gulshanan, floor is yours. Thank you, Brother Rodriguez.
Brethren, greetings from me. Ladies, gentlemen, and brethren, I am Brother Gusharan Parmar from Grand Lodge of Canada in the province of Ontario. I have a very simple message to give you, not very complicated, simple words. Masonry was there for a century, as we know, and had been told by the various historians, and we have read. And it is there now, in spite of the worth of COVID-19 pandemic. This meeting, and many more happening all around the world, are the good examples of that. And I'm sure it will be there for centuries to come. Excuse me, with good men and women, and more particularly with true and worthy Masons. And I will not be surprised that it may spread or taken to some other planets with all the science and technology we have these days on this planet, which we call Earth. So, brethren, let us do what we can do. I am sure in future, others will do maybe better than us also, and I'm sure Masonry will progress throughout in the coming centuries also. Here, I would like to thank Grand Lodge of Georgia, and in particularly to Brother David for giving me this chance to speak. And thank you, brethren, all for your patience. Thank you very much, as spoken.
Fraternal greetings to all. I'm Brother Ranesh Hegde from Lodge United Services on the rolls of the Grand Lodge of India. And today, I would like to talk to you about handshake. If you would have watched shows like Suits, Mad Men, Peaky Blinders, and movies like Godfather, Citizen Kane, etc., you will find a recurring theme of men shaking hands to seal a deal or give the word. Sounds a bit archaic in the 21st century, and I'm pretty sure in the 22nd century too. What is the big deal about a handshake? In the olden times, a man's word was his bond, and a handshake sealed the deal or a promise for which you don't need any written agreements. However, in this age, we have people who go back on their words, and a handshake has become just an action. Why do you think we have come to this stage? The answer, as per me, lies in morality. We all have got some form of education and teachings from our families, guardians, teachers, and even friends. They all have contributed in becoming what we are today. So how does that work? It's the company we keep. We learn from each other and inculcate the actions and thoughts to become what we are. However, we have moved on to a stage where we have become so busy in our materialistic world that we have lost the camaraderie and the chance of learning from each other. We are more focused on coming first in everything that we do not think twice in betraying people that includes our near and dear ones. The reason lies in we losing our touch to that moral compass. Freemasonry is a band of brothers and a fraternity that guides us and helps us in steering our lives to the right moralistic path by instilling the teachings in the form of symbolism and allegorical plays that is performed on a regular basis in front of us. We are finally at a place where the group educates with their actions those long lost teachings to ensure that we become a better person and perform our duties in a fair and square manner. So let's learn the good things from each other and bring back the morality in that handshake, thus making our life and this world a better place. Thank you, Brother David and Grand Lodge of Georgia, for the opportunity and allowing us to be part of the virtual order of Sapere Aude. Dixit.
Silencio.
Yes, Brother Carlos, you can start.
Muy buenas tardes con todos. Soy Carlos Vera Quintana, miembro de la respetable logia simbólica Benjamín Franklin número 63 del Oriente de Manta, Ecuador, jurisdiccionada a la Gran Logia Equinoccial del Ecuador. Agradezco por la oportunidad de poderme dirigir a los hermanos y hermanas en esta parte del mundo y en el futuro, esperando que pueda ser escuchado de manera clara y entendiéndose el significado de este momento por el que estamos trabajando ya en todas partes del mundo usando la tecnología en esta época de pandemia. Yo aspiro que para esta época en que esta cápsula sea revelada, tengamos la oportunidad de volver a la masonería operativa, a la masonería de siempre, a la masonería de valores y principios, aquella masonería que nos legaron nuestros antepasados y que esperamos tener el valor y la capacidad de trabajar para legárselas a ustedes. Que la masonería siga siendo siempre libertaria, cuna de ideales, cuna de luchas, cuna de presente, de pasado y de futuro, para que siempre tengamos la capacidad de ser mejores hombres, mejores mujeres, mejores seres humanos y llegar aquí o donde estemos con nuestro mensaje, con nuestros valores, con nuestros principios por siempre y para siempre. Que la masonería se mantenga es lo que yo espero, aspiro de aquí en los años que vengan, desde ahora y para siempre. Muchas gracias, es mi mensaje. Un triple abrazo fraternal para todos, donde quiera que estemos, que nuestras energías se multipliquen.
Muchas gracias, hermano
Gracias.
Carlos.
He dicho.
Respected brother, I am Brother Harikishore from Lodge Burroughs, Strange 87 under Grand Lodge of India. Can you hear me, brother? Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
As of today, a topic of a discussion, future of masonry in the next century. This pandemic has brought our universal Freemasonic brotherhood together through this virtual platform. This should be continued by all the Freemasonic institutions in future also. The basic tenets of masonry should be taught from the college degree level so that it would help aspiring persons to have some idea about the Freemasonry and would greatly help them to become good Masons. In the present scenario, we are totally under darkness until our initiation into the craft. There should be greater Masonic youth exchange programs between various countries. It would greatly help in fostering peace and understanding among the future global youth. The Grand Lodges should encourage forming of youth Masonic lodges with senior Masons as mentors. This should help the young Masons to become worthy of themselves and true spirit of free Masonry in future. And I take this opportunity to thank Brother David and the Virtual Order of Sapir Adi for giving me this opportunity and bringing all of us together from all corners of the globe through this virtual platform. Thank you, Brother David. I'm done. Thank you, brother.
Brother Plumman, floor is yours.
Thank you, Brother David. You hear me?
All fine. Go ahead, please.
It's okay. Beloved brethren, in your degrees and merits, I am Most Worshiped Brother Plumman Mateev, immediate past Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Ancient and Free and Accepted Masons in Bulgaria. I have enough opinion expressed to chart the directions of the main trends so far. I will share my most sincere dreams, desires, expectations, and ideas, referring to the magnificent verse from more than 200 years ago of the European Freemason and world-renowned writer Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, using the conclusions of the 5th International Masonic Town Hall. Go obedient to my call. Turn to profit thy young days. Whether make beteems thy breast, in fair balance as it says. Seldom is the clock at rest. Thou must either mount or fall. Thou must either rule and win, or submissively give in, triumph, or else yield to clamor, be the anvil or the hammer. Despite my sincerely wishes, very rarely will we have the happiness of equality of the scales, and therefore we must consistently remind and prepare ourselves that the process of accumulating data and experience will go through many obstacles. We are not going to be able to find the balanced solutions for the continuation of our activities in the current uncertain dynamics of the changes that we have in our societies. Second, our vision of transitioning and returning to the old normality will not be accepted as the smartest, even if it's the most desirable by us options. We must strive with great perseverance in the new normality to remove the obstacles and follow the ancient forms, but filled with a new content, or to refer again to the poet that divide and rule is a wise rule, but unite and guide is a better rule. Third, all our predictions and desires may not happen or be in the wrong directions. We must constantly prepare and start understanding that the process of accumulating the data and experience during the next 100 years will go through many ups and downs, but will be available to achieve the sufficiency and probability we all desire. And the fourth, my dreams is to achieve full understanding and synchron in the next century that the continuous work and service is that whoever does not want to be a hammer will be an anvil in the lodge of the Masonic character of any lodge. I have said, cheers, Brother David. Thanks for the Grand Lodge of Georgia. Mukuzani.
Cheers and thank you. Brother Carlos Najera, please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. I'm trying to write my
Carlos. Carlos, I guess I accidentally muted you, so please could you repeat again? Sorry, it was my fault.
Thank you very much. No, thank you to you, David, and all the brothers to see and hear your expectation for our future. That's all. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to assist to these lectures. Bye.
Thank you. You have said. Then we have the last speaker of today's time capsule. That is Jonathan Krieg. Please unmute yourself. Yeah, and the floor is yours. Then we will have Tyler's toast made by brother Robert Cooper in a Scottish style. So, brother Jonathan, listening to you.
Thank you, brethren. And just want to say what a wonderful meeting this has been. I wasn't actually on this to speak, so I have nothing planned, but I'm a past master from La Luz Lodge number 3 in Costa Rica, English speaking lodge, and also the second principal of our Royal Lodge Scottish Constitution here in Costa Rica. I wanted to speak because just because an organization exists doesn't mean it's alive. My own feeling is that, and learning much from Brother Cooper, that we know, one thing we do know is that Freemasonry is derived from at least 450 years ago from stonemasons. And I am an operative, I wouldn't say operative, but I am a stonemason and stone carver. And I haven't really heard any earth-shattering solutions to Freemasonry for the future. We don't know in the future if even this technology will exist and people hear this, that we don't know what the world will be in 100 years from now. It's impossible to know, as we know. But one thing I feel rather, is that at the point of when speculative masonry evolved from operative masonry, my own feeling is that it opened up a Pandora's box, and that many things throughout hundreds of years entered into Freemasonry from the pure, almost equation of what operative stonemasonry is. So there's no way in 2 minutes I can do this, but I think that Freemasonry in the world now, for the youth, for the future, needs to actually go back to that. I'm not saying you should go out and learn stonemasonry and stone carving, that's ridiculous. But to go back to what the essence of operative masonry is, and that the educational system of masonry needs to transform for the future. Because I know, I've seen many good people leave Freemasonry. I've seen grandmasters and master masons and worshipful masters who I don't even think they evolved from the apprentice level. I really do mean that. I don't say that as a criticism, but I've seen that. And I think that exists throughout the world on certain levels, that many Freemasons, they become a worshipful master or grandmaster, and they think it's almost a very important thing in their lives, when in the outside world, it's not. And I've studied since 17 and traveled throughout the world many esoteric things. That has been my life. I forgo college for that. But there's no separation between the profane world and the esoteric world, let's say, or mystical world. There isn't any. Or even drinking a glass of whiskey, there's no difference. But there's a process in actualizing through your hands. I'm not saying just free stonemasonry again, for transformation of a human being. A lot of people have left because they don't receive that. The rituals, the initiations, they exist, and I'm not saying change that at all. We all know the beauty of Freemasonry. who are in it. But a lot of people are turned off by certain things. And just because you were initiated, whatever that may be, doesn't mean that you grow into something that you should be, a master mason. If you're an operative mason, if you can't square a stone properly in the beginning, I mean, literally square a stone, you can't get away with it. You see it as a reflective mechanism of yourself. But symbolically, many apprentices don't square the stone. So my idea, to cut this short, is that there needs to be a new educational system in lieu of what we already have for transformation, for the actual existence and furthering of Freemasonry. I have many, many ideas of that. Of course, I do that every day. But I feel that is a very important thing for the future, because the paradigm is actually not working as well as it did in the past, because it's a new time, new culture, and something else is needed. And my belief is to go back to what it originally was in a different sort of way. So I just want to say thank you all. Thank you for this medium of Zoom. It's been amazing in this pandemic. And it's been great. And thank you very much, brethren.
Brother Sergio, floor is yours, and this is the final speaker of today.
Okay. Thank you, David. It's not even fair to talk after Brother Jonathan, but let's go. I am Sérgio Pontes Ribeiro from the Grand Lodge of Minas Gerais State in Brazil, where I have a position of Secretary for Environmental Issues. So for a Grand Lodge in a country as Brazil to have a Secretary for Environmental Issues says a lot about our need to compromise with the future we need to have. And in the profane world, I am a biologist and a scientist as well. Then, although I'm along with Sasha, and I see after the age of reason, science and Freemasonry took totally different paths. And that was for the best for both. Science developed totally different from us, from methods, procedures, and a community that follows their own rules. And that gave us the freedom to experience life in a different way, to rescue and experience and to perceive our existence through our rights that embed lots of traditions and knowledges that are not categorized or put in a catalog as the conventional science does, that allow us to experience. And that's very much important for our evolutionary progress, for experience as a human beings. However, in the world we live in the place where I'm living in the world, which was totally divided, not by ideological and compatible ways to think, but for lies, for fake news, for fantasies that put the ordinary people far from urgent issues, as for instance, the urgence to preserve nature. This is absolutely necessary for us to tackle as well, because we have the duty to combat ignorance. Then I see in the future for the Masonry, when squaring our feet, one foot on the past, preserving traditions and knowledge from the past, and the other foot along by side with science to preserve truth. Thank you very much. Cheers, David.
Cheers. And with this, this concludes the list of all the speakers that have confirmed. Just few missed due to some personal reasons, and we hope that in future we'll have the opportunity to give them the floor to share their opinions about the future. I should thank you so much for all the very warm and fraternal words that has been shared here towards Sapere Aude, towards myself, and most importantly towards my Grand Lodge of Georgia here in Tbilisi, European one. So I send my fraternal greetings and thank yous to all the participants, brethren, most worshipful, right worshipful, very worshipful, and brethren all, for all the visions, dreams, opinions that you shared. And I think we have created a composition, a huge collection of interesting ideas, and we will put it out there and let's see what comes through. As some of you said that we won't be there to check it after 100 years, but we share this from our heart, from our experience, from our visions, and hopefully it will be there will be some little dots of truth that smart ground lodges around the world will take on board and make this brotherhood more universal, more integrated, and let's see where it gets us. Of course, we all honor principles, we all honor all the things that we choose, but in addition, it has more potential, I think, as a private brother, member of Grand Lodge of Georgia and Grand Lodge of Lithuania. As an individual, I think that the fraternity has a lot more to offer, and it should develop. I will share, just use the opportunity and share three announcements, which I want to include in time capsule, and then we will have very nice Scottish style Tyler's toast made by our beloved brother Robert Cooper. So first of all, first announcement is that after discussing very interesting ideas, especially with Brother Hasu, the credit should also be shared with Brother Hasu for very excellent ideas. We think that Sapere Aude be can grow more universal, and we will prepare the concept and we will prepare the website sapereaude.world that will give opportunity to deliver all the information, all the lectures from around the world, not only the recorded ones, because YouTube is good for that, but announcements. So anyone who is, it's like Massopedia that we want to create. Every single thing that is about Freemasonry, you can go here and learn and search. We will try to make the concept as much as it would be possible inclusive, and so we will try to go beyond jurisdictions, beyond some restrictions and principles we all adhere by our choice, and this will be platform for everyone to put their messages there, deliver everything in one place. So it will be like a Wikipedia for Masonic world, and it will be live, it will be interacting, it will be responding to your requests. So anyone who would want to spend a day or an hour will just go through some lists and find appropriate content from appropriate continent, from appropriate jurisdiction, or not jurisdiction, just interjurisdictional group that meets and discusses an interesting topic for him or her. So this is one concept that will be delivered. Most probably will be ready to present it as such after New Year, when we will renew the lectures on Sapere Aude. I see we have guests who don't like to be civilized, but that's once again reminds us that some tiling, some privacy is definitely needed, because there are individuals who don't really understand what civilization is all about. The second issue that I would like to announce is that I think the time capsule that we created today is a very good initiative, and I wouldn't say challenge, but I would ask if Grand Lodges around the world would want to do the same on the institutional level. One thing is that what we shared as individual brothers, dedicated persons who have known each other here, but maybe Grand Lodges as institutions have also something to say to the future generations in 100 years. Maybe that would be something that they could think about, and maybe that's where the dreams and reality can come together and try to deliver a product. And kind of thinking about it could be a good trend, could be a good exercise for everyone and institutions as well, because there are many of them who are under challenges, under COVID challenges, under membership challenges, different challenges. But this is dreams and the institutions coming together. So maybe they want to think about preparing time capsule for all the Grand Lodges around the world. So the details always can be supported. Grand Lodge of Georgia would be so honored if we could be the logistically supporting all these initiatives. So we are open for any discussions if Grand Lodges would like to have this kind of time capsule be prepared. But universally, anyone can prepare locally for themselves, but let's think wider. Let's dream. Let's try to prepare the visions. The third initiative that we will try to start in several weeks is we will try to create a group of the individuals who want to go beyond history, beyond philosophy, and try to learn more of the deeper side of ancient wisdom, let me put it that way. So we will, on an individual basis, we will discuss with you. Anyone who would be interested on that, just give me a hint on in any channel, whether it be WhatsApp, email, or whatever, just to know that there is an interest of you, not a group, nothing. Just this will be very individually selective. It won't be public. It will be discussed. I mean, we will discuss issues which might be of interest for those who are dedicated to go deeper and see where the limits are. Maybe it's limitless. So let's try. Let's try what we have done on history, on philosophy, on national focuses. Let's try to go that direction as well and see what the grounds are. So these are three new initiatives that come from Sapere Aude audience. It does not belong only to me. There have been brothers from different jurisdictions, including Brother Hasu, Brother Robert Cooper, Brother Maged, Moab. So there have been a discussion all these 2-3 months that maybe there is something else we can explore. So all these three initiatives are out there, and we will try to realize all three of them. We just propose it, and it will be up to you whether you would like to participate, whether you would like to enjoy it or not. It won't be charged. It won't be commercialized. It is again fraternal, one more fraternal step to bring us together as like-minded individuals. We are not talking about institutions. Let's see where we are, what we are. Let's go deeper. So thank you so much. Once again, I send fraternal greetings from Grand Lodge of Georgia for the future generations that will be watching this video one day, even today, tomorrow, after 100 years, on whatever platform will be available there. I will remind everyone that after this recording is done, you have 2 weeks to once again go through your papers, speeches, send it to me with your picture on it, and we will try to compile a textual e-version of the speeches. We will send them to all the museums, libraries, Grand Lodges around the world, so they can have a look at it, and let's spread the word around. And we most probably be able to print and send material books as well to mention the institutions. So having said that, it is my pleasure and honor to unmute now Brother Robert, and floor is all yours. Let's see how many of us have wine with it at hand. Okay, beer also fine. I will still keep everyone muted. Brother Bob. Brother Bob, we don't hear you. I don't know why. You are unmuted. Yeah,
All right.
now you go. Now you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
good. Okay. I was just saying very quickly, you will know that Scotland has a whole host of different Masonic rituals. It also has a huge number of different toasts. And we're going to give you the one that you'll probably understand despite the accent. So I would ask you to lift up your glass and listen to me, and this is a traditional Scottish toast, but common, I think, across the world. So this is to all poor and distressed Freemasons, wherever they may be it on land, sea, or in the air, and hoping they return to their own fireside, should they so wish it and desire it. To all poor and distressed Freemasons all over the world. Cheers.
Cheers. Can we unmute everyone now?
Yeah.
Okay, I think, okay, let me first finish the recording. Please don't unmute yourself. I will finish the lecture and then the floor will be everyone's. So once again, this was time capsule prepared on 6th of October 2020 for the future generation in 100 years from now on. This was Sapere the number hundreds and Nahwamdis, that's in Georgian goodbye. Okay, now the recording is, the lecture is over. So floor is everyone. I think you can unmute yourself now.
Cheers. I hope you have cheers.
We're still recording. We're still on YouTube. But
I hope you
stop.
have kicked out David. I hope you have kicked out Maria.
Maria Rosa is gone, and the Pharaoh or whatever is gone as well.
Put the camera
she really
on,
wanted
please,
to talk.
everybody.
I think,
which
brethren,
camera?
first of all,
On the camera.
David, I think it was 25th, not 26th of September or November.
No, it was October 25th we started, but 26th already here. So
already.
time zones.
Oh,
what
time
can I do?
zones.
It was
David,
all the
I just want to
26th.
say with this daylight saving nonsense, you have to turn it back an hour. We can't start so late. My good friend, Brother David Norman, Brother David Slater cannot stay up that late. I'm not asking for myself. I'm asking for
I also agree with Sri.
4 o'clock's good.
I think
We have
David
to get
Slater
it
got
back
up
1
way too
hour.
early, right? I think David Slater actually got up way too early just to attend this one, if I'm not
Yeah,
wrong.
All fine, all fine.
So we have to go one hour before our usual time. This daylight saving thing is
Gone
just
off.
Okay, so once again,
terrible.
to finalize,
Thank you.
let's
Goodbye.
try to add on. Yes, goodbye, Carlos. 16th, 16:00,
Yes.
4 p.m. GMT time.
That's right.
Would it be okay for everyone?
For me, it's okay. Because
What do you want?
That's
Okay.
Spasiba.
Okay. No, Madloba.
Oh, Madloba,
please.
I said it purposely.
Yeah.
But Shri, don't you think so? This is technically, David is just the rock star in this. He literally managed everything amazingly well. This would not have happened without David.
I hope we kicked out like 6 intruders. But most importantly, the only part they could manage to appear was in the beginning, in the video. And then it was gone. The chat is not seen anyway, so
I was
sorry for
translating.
all bad words.
You depressed Cleo
I was
some really
translating.
good music. I don't know why you did that by kicking them out. Cleo was rocking to the music. She had her hair down.
I was translating.
Life is not fair.
I was translating from Spanish, and it was, I said, "Oh my God, I can't believe what I'm reading."
Oh, now I'll have to Google translate it. My Spanish isn't that good. All my cuss words are fairly lame, I feel. In
Anyway, it was a great meeting, David. Congratulations. Really appreciated whatever happened tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you for participating, interesting ideas, opinions. I hope we've gone through it quite smoothly. And let's move on. On Monday, we'll have a fourth lecture on ancient and accepted Scottish Rite with Brother Jacques. That will be the finalizing lecture on ancient and accepted Scottish Rite. And well, the questions are too late to be sent to him. I received several and I forwarded them, so he will answer those questions. So
I think, Brother David,
today is Monday, David.
Oh yes, it's today already. Yeah, sorry.
Maybe for most of you here, it is only Sunday again.
I think, Brother David, it might be a nice thing to actually, when everything's transcribed, to actually put it in a real time capsule and bury it somewhere, because that would be nice.
Yeah, we spoke about that last time.
Huh.
Well, when things come to normality, we will have to get together, and we will definitely can do that and put it closer somewhere in Georgian, I don't know, stone on which will be then built the Chronology of Georgia's temple or something.
Would be very good. Cornerstone of your lodge, chip a little hole out, get an operative mason to come chip a little hole out, put it in over there.
I'll do it.
We have some operative masons actually over here.
I'll do it.
Brother David, there's a company here in in Arizona that does 3D concrete printing. They can 3D print a concrete statue, and we can bury it inside there.
Could be. So you're inviting us to Florida, you mean?
No, the company is based in Arizona.
We were just going to drill a small hole, right?
Stone is better.
Now I guess David,
I'm just curious. I'm just curious as to where. I'm just curious where that hole will be drilled. Sorry, it's late. My mind wanders.
Near the cornerstone on the maybe east side of the cornerstone.
That sounds like the message we were receiving.
I don't know where to find the east side of a cornerstone on a statue, but I mean...
No, the statue is separate. The statue, I mean, now that's a bigger idea. We need funding for the statue and all. That's going to be and how big it's going to be is a question.
They're relatively cheap to 3D print.
Yeah, but how big will the statue be, And then if it's not really heavy and it's not made of cement, Like, for example, in our lodge, we have a huge statue in the center of our house, but I don't know, in the center of the doorway as you enter the lodge, the Freemason Hall. So, and it's a huge statue, and it's not going to be going anywhere soon, but I doubt anyone's going to allow you to drill a hole next to it, That's the only question.
In our lodge in Costa Rica, we bought a house, and I designed the lodge according to certain geometries. I hate using the word sacred geometry, and underneath where the worshipful master sits, I actually made a truncated stone pyramid, which is sunk underground, and it's hollow, and a truncated pyramid it's a flat top, and I put a very small square stone center, had a ceremony with some of the brethren of laying the lines from the center line of our lodge, and placed the stone there. And so we have places where we could actually put things for the future.
I mean, you've lodged it into the ground and put it with cement.
Yes,
or
it's very unique. It's
okay.
There's no metal at all. It's it's not a very large pyramid, but I mean, it's not small either. It's probably, I don't know, probably 1.5 meters tall. And so we sunk it underneath where the worshipful master sits. And right now I'm carving stone columns for the lodge. But
so the base is downwards and it points upwards underneath the worshipful master, or it's an inverted where you've put it?
No, it's actually underneath where the worshipful master is, and it has a tempered, very thick.
Base on its head.
The what?
It's been placed on its base, or it was placed on its tip?
No, it's on its base. It's like a pyramid that's.
Okay.
If you think that's flat on top, but you can actually see in it, and then it has a very thick tempered glass, which can hold hundreds of kilos or pounds. And
you
so
make
the
me,
worshipful master sits on it.
You make me want to ask, is there a trap door under the master's chair?
That's been a joke. That's been a big joke, actually. Depends if he gets good or bad through his tenure.
Glad to know some other Freemasons have my warped sense of humor.
For me as a stonemason, I studied in England, actually, and the only person who would take me on as an apprentice many, many years ago in a little village, he was a Freemason. Before I was a Freemason, I'd studied a lot of other things, but he was the only one who was willing to take me on as an apprentice, and used to take me around to the churches, graveyards, and explain to me Masonic symbols, which at the time, I wish I could remember everything, but very extraordinary. That's how was sort of my introduction to Freemasonry, although I knew about it beforehand. But he actually was a Freemason. He's not alive anymore. When I talked, not to get too serious, but I wasn't referring. I was referring to something that I feel is very needed. That my perspective of Freemasonry is very, very different than when you read it or read the lectures or read it. I see it in a very different way because the process of working stone, which I can't explain now, it's not just that.
Meditative.
It's not even meditative. It's something else. It's not. It is in a sense,